Hey, 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 everybody. Good night. Good night. This is September 15th. Tomorrow will be September 16th. And we know what day that is. Is the day the opposition decide that we are going on the street and we are going to speak because we have a voice. Hey, everybody, tomorrow. And let me just bend down here and pick this up. You know what I have in my hand here? You know what I have in my hand? I have in my hand, guess what, guys? All the permits are in place. You paid for it. You paid for the permit. The opposition is taking care of business. All right? The opposition is taking care of business. The opposition is not waiting. Not waiting. And it says, in accordance, the permit issued under the authority of the Public Order Act, CAPS 168A. Natasha, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. And it says, in accordance with the authority vested in me under sections 10 and 11 of the Public Order Act, CAP 168A, permission is hereby granted to this group to stage a march in accordance with the terms and conditions set out here under. Yes, and so this is it here, guys. It's here and it's paid for. It's already paid for. The receipt is here. The receipt is here. So everything is paid for. Your money is working. Your money is working. We have paid for the permit. So you make sure that you are ready for tomorrow. Tomorrow is the big day, guys. We go out tomorrow. Tomorrow. The permit is paid for thanks to everybody who gave funding. This morning we got up. We didn't even have enough money. But by the time I went down to the office and by the time Caswell started to call me, you know what? It was coming in, right? The funds were coming in. The funds were coming in. Yes. Good night, Sonia. Good night, Clytie. Good night, Nigel. Hi, Nigel. Nigel, you coming tomorrow? Natasha, will you be there tomorrow? And did you invite anybody? Heather Cliff. Heather was the first to be on. Heather, I have to highlight Heather. Heather was on from 6:55. From 6:55, Heather was on. Listen, Oswald Newton. Hi, Oswald. Where are you watching from, Oswald? Listen, if it's Barbados, you're watching from, everybody needs to be on, Rameem, Rameem is normally the first on, but Rameem, you missed out last time, and this time as well. Heathcliff, went ahead of you, but good to see you. Listen, folks, tomorrow, bright and early. We want to aim to get there for 9:00. Right? We want to aim to get, yes, Oswald. So make sure you're down there tomorrow and bring somebody with you. Bring somebody. We need to be able to send a clear message. We need to send a clear and a strong message. Listen, anybody enjoyed the show last time? The last show that we had. Anybody on Wednesday? Hey, far away from Canada. Listen, I know you can't be here, but you're sending prayers and good wishes for us here in Barbados, because tomorrow we go out as a strong opposition. Tomorrow. That's what's happening tomorrow. We go out as a strong opposition. Sonia, are you in Barbados, Sonia? You're coming down tomorrow, Sonia? We got to stand up for this country. Do we believe in the country? Do we believe in Barbados? Do we believe in what this country stands for? What can we give back to this country that has given us so much? Hi, Carol Barker. Carol, where are you watching from? Wayne, are you coming down tomorrow? Carol, anybody watching from Barbados, you make sure that you are down tomorrow. We're going to be starting at Massey Car Park. Massey Car Park at 9:00 tomorrow. So make sure that you are down. We start at 10, but I'm saying let's be there at 9. The police says that we have to leave on time. We can't be late. Yes, I love this. I love this. Look what Queen says. Good night to all the opposition. All opposition, good night. We getting it. We getting it. Yes, Carol say I'm marching. Yes, Sonia gonna meet us at the end. She can't walk properly, but Sonia is meeting us at the end. Hurricane will be there. Listen, don't leave us out there by ourselves. This is our country, and we're standing up for our country. We're standing up for our workers. We're standing up for the elderly. We're standing up for the future. We're standing up for our children. Yeah, tomorrow, it's all about that tomorrow. It's all about that tomorrow. Important that we come out tomorrow. Yes, come out tomorrow. And guys, share up the live. I see Mr. Stewart is here already. Bright and early, Mr. Stewart is here. So I wanted to share up the live. Share up the live. But Sonia's saying, yes, truth seekers. Yes, Wednesday class was phenomenal. Anybody can tell me one reason you thought the class was phenomenal. Tell me, what did you learn last class? Tell me one thing that you learned last class. Yes, you've been sharing about the show, and you added new persons to share the link with. Yes, keep sharing. Now, while you do that, I'm gonna bring up a picture here on the screen, right? And this picture. Anybody can see this picture? Anybody can tell me when this picture was? Let me try and hide the date. Who can tell me what year this march was? Let me move this off the screen. Anybody can tell me? This is a picture of a march in Bridgetown. Anybody knows what year this was? Can anybody tell me what year it was? Anybody? Sonia Ashby says 2017. You are correct. It was 2017. And this was a march. Let me read what it says here, guys. This was in 2017, July 24th, actually. Thousands march in nationwide Barbados protest, July 24, 2017. Anybody can guess why they were marching? Anybody can guess? Can anybody guess and tell me why were they marching? You were almost right, Sonia. You said 2017, but you didn't have the month. You said December, but it was July 2017. Anybody can tell me why they were marching? These were thousands. Yes. That's why we were marching. We were marching on behalf of the merchants. And this march, we know, is a fact. This march that we turned out in our thousands for was not about us. We later realized we were fooled. NSRL, we were fooled, had nothing to do with us. This is a march that had nothing to do with us. On Saturday when we come out, on Saturday when we come out, this one has everything to do with us. And you know, the good thing about this is not being organized. The one on Saturday is not being organized by any political party. Yeah? Yeah? That's what this march is about. The march on the screen was not about us. Okay, so I asked what we learned, and I'm going to come back to Hurricane. I love that answer, Hurricane. I'm going to come back to your answer. But let me just analyze this march that we turned out in our thousands for. Huh? What is it we don't like about ourselves? Why we can't do something for ourselves? Why we can't do something for ourselves? Do you see the merchants coming out to march about the pensions? Who is the pensions going to go? The increase, the retirement age. Who is it going to affect? It's going to affect us mostly, the people, poor people, the elderly. Do we see them out marching? They don't come out to march. They don't come out to march. But let's read a little bit. This was carried by iNews Guyana, actually. Bridgetown, Barbados, it says, CMC, a nationwide protest called by trade unions and the private sector has won the support of thousands of Barbadians who turned out Monday, urging the government to roll back the increase in the National Social Responsibility Levy. Huh? You see this crowd? You see how thick this crowd was? Huh? The protest is jointly organized by, listen to who the protest is organized by, the Barbados Private Sector Association. That's the businesses in Barbados. It was, they were the ones who were worried about about those taxes. Them. By guess who? The Workers' Union, the Barbados Workers' Union, the National Union of Public Workers, the Barbados Union of Teachers, and the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union. The only union that was not here is whose? Caswell's Union. All the unions were there. The march you're attending, the march we're promoting on Saturday is not backed by any union. In fact, you remember when we first started this whole thing, they made sure that they said in the newspaper, we're not part of that. We are not part of it. Yeah? So when you come out on Saturday, this is the march about you. And continue to write in the comment section what you learn. I see people writing. I love that. Let me just go over the objectives of the march that we are planning, that you paid for. The merchants and the unions, they paid for that march. This march is paid by you. I went down to the school today and saw your donations. The money for this march here that I have the permit for, it's coming from you. You paid for this. Corporate Barbados didn't pay for this. No merchants pay for this. No union pay for this. Came from the people of Barbados. This march is for you. And I just want to just review why we're marching and say to you, don't just send the link out to the, to people, or don't just, send the poster out to people. Call up someone and invite them. Yeah? Call up someone and invite them. Invite them out. When we march tomorrow, we are saying no to the NIS and pension bill. The NIS bill extends our retirement age to 68 years old, while the politicians retire at 50. It cannot work. The opposition says it can't work. Everybody agrees. I want to hear you from in your house say it can't work. I know. It can work. 70-50 contribution instead of 500 to get her pension. What we say, it can work. 80 million invested overseas per year in what? We don't know. It can work. Right? The changes from board to state. Who will control our money? It can work. We are also protesting about the child protection bill. The child protection bill clearly removes and reduces parental rights. It can work. The opposition say no. We stand up just like how the others, they stood up in 2017 and opposed that government. We stand up tonight and we say that can work. Yeah. Transparency and accountability. Accurate data on that job injury and the deaths relating to the job. We say, listen, we need to know what it is. You can't conceal that anymore. It can't work. We want to know what happened to the solid waste tax. What happened to that money? Where is that? This is all of the things that we're asking about. What about the mandatory digital ID? All of a sudden now everybody got a pin. They want stickers. They want juke us with pin. Everybody, they want us to pin. Yeah? All of these. We talk about justice for workers. That's why we're marching. The march, as I said, paid for by you. Yes? Correct. Increase wages and salaries, reduce prices of food and necessities. The people need the sewage tax removed because we don't see what it's doing. Right? We don't see it doing anything. I'm in Trinidad, and you know, often the garbage was collected in Trinidad. Anybody want to take a guess at that? You know, often the garbage was collected in Trinidad. Versus I live here in St. Philip, and sometimes they come once a week or once every 2 weeks. Where our school is, sometimes 3 weeks, the garbage is still there. We have to call for it to be collected. See, the people putting out everything that we need to march about. Hey, Lumumba, I hope you can jump on tonight, Lumumba. I know sometimes your Wi-Fi doesn't work the best. But listen. See, they want us to march about the Granty Adams International Airport, the QEH, and the health services. We should have we should have thousands of people out there tomorrow. Accountability. What is the borrowed money spent on? People, all these things people are asking about. Yes, I see Mr. Franklin is here. I know he had a busy day today. Good evening, Mr. Franklin. Good to see you.
Yes, nice to be here. Good evening, everybody.
And Kimar is here too. Go ahead, sir.
No, I'm so happy to be here this afternoon because, like, this week, Monday, yesterday, and today, I had 3 queries from people that demonstrates clearly why national insurance is so important and why we mustn't go and take it up for foolishness, or if we take it up, don't pay it back. I'll tell you what those queries are. All 3 of these people were injured on the job. And the companies are not assisting beyond the initial transportation to FMH or Sandy Crest or wherever they put them. And they don't have to. They're not required to. But a lot of people believe that if you get hurt on the job, it is the company's responsibility, whether it is their fault or not. There are 2 aspects to this thing. If you get injured on the job and there was no negligence on the company's part, they don't owe you anything.
Okay.
Right? They don't owe you anything. If the company had, let's say, left a manhole cover open up, some of you fall into it, or they had a electrical cord running across the place, you trip over it, that is their fault. And in that case, then you wouldn't need me, you would need a lawyer because you sue them if they
Right.
don't do something. But however, if you just get some sort of accident that wasn't the company's fault, then that cost goes to national insurance. National insurance injury benefits includes doctor bills. If you are injured to the extent where you couldn't walk, you have to get a taxi to get to the doctor and back. They will pay for that. MRI, CT scans, whatever you have, as long as it arose out of the accident that you had at work, then it's covered by national insurance. So when you take out the national insurance fund to do nonsense or to and then don't pay it back, then the national insurance doesn't have the money to pay people for what they're doing because national insurance is essentially what it says, an insurance. So
Right.
the employer pays insurance. A component of the money that the employer pays goes towards employment injury, and a component of what the employer pays, because the employer pays some and the employee pays some, they're going to the fund, but they're separated. They said this is for employment injury, this is for sickness, this is for pension. But when you go and take up the fund, what will happen to those components? You won't get any. So,
Right.
so it is critical because those three people, all three, were angry at their employers because the employers were not shelling out any money to assist them with their bills. It would be a good thing if the employer helped them because national insurance is after the fact kind of thing. When you go to national insurance and you're injured, there's a form that the yellow form that the doctor gives you.
Right.
There's a section on that form that asks, is it an injury at work? And if you say yes, then there's a section that you fill out. And national insurance will then write to the company and ask them if this already happened. Now, if the company agrees, then that there's an injury at work, national insurance will pay you injury benefits as opposed to sickness benefits. Sickness benefits is 66 and 2/3% of your salary. Injury benefits is 90%.
Okay.
And then they pay your doctor bills. You are injured and you are covered. If you're injured, you are covered from the first minute you start to work. So, like, if you're sick, you have to work for some period. I don't remember what it is now. If it is maternity, you're going to be there for a year. Unemployment benefit, you're going to be working for a year. But injury, you can walk into the office and walk on the corner, bam, first day on the job, first few minutes on the job, and you are covered. So this is why it's so important. You don't even have to have filled out the forms for national insurance yet. But as soon
Wow.
as you get, as soon as you get on the job and start working, you are covered for national insurance injury benefits. So the government can't keep on taking people's money and then what's happening there? And
Okay, they're asking you to raise your volume. I don't know what's happening. Can you hear him well, Kimar? Good night, Kimar. Can you hear Caswell well?
That's good night. Could hear about.
but I'm up to all.
You're up to all. Okay. Can anybody else is having problems hearing Caswell? Let us know. Okay, continue, Mr. Franklin.
Right now, we are not only marching for pensions, and what they do with national insurance fund, because the pensions is only one component of the national insurance fund. When they say it is your lifeline, it might sound corny, but it's a fact. Because if you are injured and you can't work, national insurance will pay you injury benefits for up to 1 year. Thereafter, and you are still unable to work because of that injury, they will pay you something called a disablement benefit. That disablement benefit now will be determined by the doctor. The doctor will determine if you are the percentage of your injury. Let's say you get 90% of your salary and for injury benefits. But then the doctor says that you are 70% disabled. You will get 70% of the money that you would have gotten for injury benefits as a disablement benefit. Disablement benefit sometimes go on for life, not necessarily until you reach 65 or 67 or 68. Because you are injured and you're disabled, you're going to be still disabled when you reach 65 or 67. So you can be covered for disablement benefit up to the day you die. Even if you are getting the national insurance pension, usually at national insurance you could only get one benefit. But with disablement, you can still get another benefit plus disablement, because you can continue working and you are partially disabled. The national insurance will still pay you disablement benefits, and you will still get your salary, because sometimes that disablement benefit goes to help you pay a nurse or somebody to help you around the house or something, because you are now disabled and you cannot perform all those functions.
Right.
So sticking your hand in the national insurance money and taking it up, you are putting all those people at risk. And I've seen too many people. I complain about this, but this week it was 3.
Yeah.
3 in 1 week. I see it on a regular basis. But this week, that's why they said I'm going to talk about it tonight. Because if you don't know, and this is why we have a lot of HR professionals. I don't call them HR professionals. I call them HR alchemists, because they don't really know what the hell they're doing. But they go about and they trick people, they bluff and give people a lot of bad information. Because this is something that every HR professional in Barbados should be telling the workers when they get injured. But no, a lot of them don't know. They get the job for some of us under some false pretense that they are human resource practitioners, and give employers and employees some very bad advice. Look, if you're going to do this thing, you're going to develop your skills, learn, read, and just start going there and looking fancy with long fingernails and nice makeup and think that you are a cause of HR professional. And I don't know, and give people a lot of bad advice, because in all 3 of those cases this week, Monday, Thursday, and today, all of them got bad advice from HR. They didn't know that national insurance pays for this thing. You know, it is heart-wrenching to see people suffering, borrowing money from their family, and all you have to do, once the employer admits that it is an injury at work,
Yes.
then when you pay your bills, there's a form that national insurance give you, and you would attach the form and say and attach the bills, and national insurance will assess those bills and pay them. You see,
Somebody, here is saying, agreeing with you. I think she meant not only pensions, but sickness, injury, maternity, funeral grants, survivors for spouse and children, death benefits. Is this person correct?
yes, all of those things are covered by national insurance. It's not only pension, and that is why people think, oh, pension, but no, it is more than pension. When you go into the national insurance fund, you are depriving our citizens. But let me warn people about something that I've seen. National insurance, when you are declared medically unfit for work, that is not for national insurance purposes. National insurance still have to get their doctor to do it. And I know of one doctor who declared a person medically unfit for work.
Okay. That's what.
And then national insurance, and he tells the service commission, oh, this person is unfit for work, can't work anymore. But then they go to national insurance, and national insurance, they'll have to send you to a doctor. Coincidentally, they send them to the same doctor that the service commission send them to. And you know that doctor said the person is fit for work, they're playing fool. I have a case like this now pending for months, and nobody don't want to challenge. Nobody want to look at this doctor because he's dishonest. He is saying to the public service, the person is unfit to work. But then when the person goes to national insurance, he tells national insurance, the people just playing fool, they could work. He's dishonest. But I'll tell you, National Insurance sends the people, a lot of people to him, and and the one that I'm doing now is horrendous, but it is not a one-off situation. I've found him more than on one occasion where he does that. So sometimes we got to be careful. I just sound that word of warning to people because you just don't have to give up. Because if you go to your doctor, let's say you are a neurologist, your doctor's a neurologist, but you have injury to your head and all kind of stuff, and then national insurance send you to a fella who does orthopedic thing. You know what? The orthopedic man writes a lot of nonsense. So workers got to be careful of that too. But that's not what I wanted to talk about tonight. I just wanted to mention that these things happen and that it's happening too often because people, I want everybody to know so that, not that I don't want people to come and see me, but it is such that you know your rights and you're suffering because a person I saw yesterday, he is borrowing from his family. He is doing all kinds of things to get money to go to the doctors and national insurance thing. And mind you, the company could say, well, look, I'll pay it for you because you know you can get back from national insurance. That I'm sure a lot of employers would do that if they know they get back the money. And national insurance will pay it back as long as it's a legitimate expense. Like somebody doctor.
Yeah. You know, this is why this is, as it's advertised, it is our lifeline. It is our lifeline. It's an insurance. It's an insurance. And I mean, as I said, you know, people were writing what they learned tonight, what they learned since Wednesday, and the whole time it's been so educational. So it's national insurance is not just a pension, but it's any kind of sickness, injury, maternity, funeral grants, survivors, spouse and children, death benefits, right? So what Mr. Franklin is saying, this is why it is important, and we cannot sit back and allow people to come and they put their hand in and talk about they're investing, and we don't know where they're sending our $80 million a year. Where is it going? We don't know. Up to now, we don't understand what is going on with the money, and we are not. You know, we're a little worried about it because they took was 1.3 billion, and they took out. Repeat, billion, right?
Billion, yes.
And we're not going to get it back according to what they're saying. The prime minister says, she said, who's supposed to pay that back? Who's supposed to pay it back? That's what she says in our, you know. So what are we going to do? What we're going to do? And this is why tomorrow it is so important. This is one of the issues, but it touches so many of us, right? That is why we're coming out. I see Mr. Stewart here. He was here early, and I know I spoke to him early this evening because Mr. Franklin, this picture is here on the screen, and I had the viewers guessing which march this was, because this is not our march here. This was 2017 when all the unions and the private sector, along with being led by the BLP. At the time, you know, Miss Mia Motley was one of the big speakers out here that day, and they orchestrated and led these people out here, you know, because they told the people that this thing was being done against them, you know, the NSRL and all of that, and now we come to realize that really it didn't really benefit us. So in this book here, Alternate Views, which is going to be on my new website that is coming up, because we're doing up a new website so they don't kick me off. So this will be on the website, so you can purchase your book. Kimar will get the money. Nothing is wrong with that. But I'm going to feature this on my website. And Kimar, in your book, you talked about the repealing of the National Social Responsibility Levy from July 1st, 2018. So this March was July 2017, right? And July 1st, 2018, they repealed the NSRL. But then they repealed NSRL, and as Mr. Franklin told us on the same show, they brought back on so many other taxes, the fuel tax, the income tax, etc. Mr. I know this will be just a little introduction for you before we jump in. Mr. Stewart, what were you at this march here? That was on the screen. Were you present, sir? Don't tell any lies.
No, he wasn't present. He was
Everybody,
not present at the
cause well, you know, everybody going to say they upset now. You know, I teasing you, Kimar.
day. Yeah, yeah. But it was,
I
sorry, go ahead.
I was invited, and I told the people in my union that if they go on that march, it will not be sanctioned by their union, so they will have walked off the job. They'll be absent without permission because Unity Workers Union will not support it. And I'll tell you what I said to the people when they called me. I said to the organizers of this march, I said, you see, that government in there, all of them are black. And I am not joining with the white people to pull down the black government. If we want them down, and I think they should come down, we should go do it ourselves. But I'm not joining with them because the white people don't join with us for anything. It's because they hid in their pockets that they want us, and the thing is, Mayor Motley honored that pledge fast. When soon as she got into power, that was one of the first things that they took out. The National Social Responsibility Levy. It was the better tax. It made those people pay when they weren't paying, because what they used to do, they used to collect the VAT and keep it. And then Mayor Motley's government came in and write off the VAT for them people for years. From between 1997 and 2000, people who didn't pay VAT were allowed to, who collected VAT.
But as we have it here, it said that the team BRA was carrying on its books amongst foreign since 1968. And the Minister of Finance recommended to write off all taxes owed from the years 1968 to 2000. And then it was recommended that outstanding payments from 2000 to 2017 have all interest and penalties due are only waived as long as particular payments are made to an agreed to payment plan.
Wow.
I'll tell you what I told them in the Senate.
So hold a minute. I want to understand. So all of what was done was when, as soon as they got into power, was to benefit the merchants.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like to me.
That's what happened. And I'll tell you something. That quote that when Kimar just made, yes, they said that. It was totally untrue. They can't find the paperwork. That was a lie. If you go now to the registration department, just go upstairs in the registry section, you will see some big books, massive books. All the judgments are in there still. So they can't say they didn't know, but they thought that sounded good. But that would sound good to people who, unlike me, never worked in the registry, never worked in the legal department, never knew what was going on. But I was a clerk with the Solicitor General's department. So I registered some of those judgments. You see? So when they come out and say these things, it sounds good and people accept it. It is not true. It was never true. They don't go and revoke the books. So the books are still there. You can go and get the book, and it is free to anybody in the public can go and ask to see the books, and they will show you, and you can go through and search through and search through and search through. The problem with that is that many people who had these judgments against them were big ups and people's father. The same thing that goes with national insurance claims when the people don't pay their contributions. When the staff at National Insurance recommend action to be taken against certain people in Barbados, it goes to the board is take off some people. And then it goes to the minister take off some more. So those people cannot be embarrassed because the National Insurance staff wanted to publish their names. And they come up with all kind of excuses and they take off their friends. So then the list became so lean that Americans publishing it. And it would look back, and it would be really bad for only the poor people who ain't got no friends to get their names published in newspaper, and big ups who own buildings in Broad Street and renting stores to people, not paying their contributions and stuff. And then you put their names in the paper. You don't put their names in the paper, but you put a fellow down the road who got a little place that fits cars.
So basically they got off with the NIS that what they owed. They got off with the taxes, right? Based on what Kimar just read, and or the full taxes that they owed are interest, right? Some of them, you know, they weren't allowed to pay. They kind of wrote off the interest on what was owed. So, you know, but my thing, Kimar, go ahead.
No, they wrote off the principal, interest, and the penalty. They wrote off everything. So
I thought what Kimar said was that for some they wrote off all three, but then for some it was just the interest.
Those are after the 2,000 people.
I got you. This is oh my God, this is crazy. But you know what, Kimar was saying something that when you look at what they were marching for, right, guys, when you look at what they were marching, we went out, all of these people out there, they said that it was thousands of people that were out there marching. I wasn't out there for sure. I wasn't out there at all. I actually wasn't even the island at the time. But they were marching for way less than what is happening now. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Because when you see the number of taxes that have been levied on us, the people, Kimar, can you go through some of those taxes for us?
But yeah, I could do that. But before we go on to that part, I am kind of sad that you didn't paint the picture for us as to what was happening in the country at the time. And Caswell being here as a union man, he knows that a labor union is meant to protect workers' rights. And that's what most trade unions are about. And they were there to protect them against the exploitation from the political class and the business class, right? But since 2013, and I say 2013 because it was Owenafo who led the BLP into elections in 2013 and not Mia Motley. So after Mia Motley was reinstated as our opposition leader, we saw a merger really happening in Barbados. A merger of all the trade unions, the business class, and the official opposition. Right? Except Kaza. Right? And during that period, these particular people band together to frustrate the governing administration of the day. Right? And it's political history anywhere in the world where the business owners and the business class could pay workers to go and march against the government. That don't happen nowhere in the world. Right? You are never paid by the merchants to go and march against the government. That's unheard of. So for that to happen, all of the so-called political scientists and interesting observers of politics should have put alarms out by that. This particular march that we are seeing here was titled the March of Disgust. Y'all can remember that?
Mm-hmm. And March of Disgust.
Yes. And during that period, 2013 to 2018, the opposition leader, and I call her the most effective opposition leader Barbados has ever seen, because she led an onslaught on Prime Minister Frondel Shore at the time. I mean, parliamentary walkouts, votes of no confidence, people's assemblies, marching all about, rubbing shoulders. And it was everything happening in Barbados. Allegations went as far as that the sewage project on the South Coast was sabotaged for political reasons to help pull down the government. Right? And so much things happened between that period that we could speak about, which helped to undermine the governing administration of the day, including some of the negative articles and some of the negative press that we were getting all over the world. We were getting downgraded left, right, and center. And not to excuse the government of the day, but they were rolling out some rather harsh measures to the population at the time. So people were becoming agitated. Right? Uh, Bus fares went up during that period, $1.50 to $2. The excise tax on gas went up by 50%. There was the fees at Cave Hill, and the government just capitalized on these so-called policy mistakes. But the government at the day had captured the minds of the voters and the population. And then in around 2013, the government sent home about 3,000 workers. So when these things started to happen, people started to lose confidence in the government of the day, coupled with the pressure from the unions. Caswell can remind us that Kenny McDowell wanted a coping subsidy, and they wanted a 50% reduction in NSRL, and they wanted 23% in wages, and they marched for these things. But when the government changed, they didn't want 23% anymore. They accepted 5.
No, they accepted 4.5. It's only when they went and cursed them on the radio and called them political prostitutes, the Prime Minister turned around and get them another 0.5%. And that is also unheard of. When an employer settles with the union, they don't come back and say, okay, there, we ain't get them enough, and then get them some more. That is what happened in Barbados. So they got 5 in the end, but they settled for 4.5, and they settled for 4.5 after meeting for less than 10 minutes. There were introductions. The meeting started. There were introductions, high ground, kind of thing, and then coming in, sitting down.
Mr. Franklin, come a little closer to the computer, see if that would help. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just within 10 minutes of them coming in the room for the meeting to start, they had come to an agreement that they can sell at 4.5%. Mind you, the previous administration had offered 7%. And they said, when I'm making sport, and what do you want? You making sport at me? You laughing in my face. And they turned around then and refused 7% and took 4.5%. So you can see it was all political. And I'll tell you, the Prime Minister has captured every organization in Barbados down to and including PTAs. So she had everybody on her side, but she was leading the opposition then. And she's keeping them, you know. You see how she kept the Barbados Workers Union? She gave them a seat in the House. And UPW is still dangling the St. James North seat in front of the president there. You know, everybody gets a little something. Situ Sab, they gave him his hospital board seat and a trip to the ILO and stuff, and you shit, and they're so easily bought and for baubles.
Yeah.
So she was good.
Yeah.
Kimar was right. She was the most effective opposition leader, as opposed to the people you got now. These people in opposing. I don't know what.
And that's why the people, all of you that's on here, right? All of you, the almost 300 of you that's on tonight, and I pray that this number goes up. Please share and come out tomorrow. The opposition has to be strong, guys. The opposition has to be strong. This is your country, right? The opposition has to be strong. And Kimar, you were talking. You were going to talk to us about the number of taxes that happen, because people seem to think that, you know what, we're living. This is paradise, you know. And when they compare so talk to us about the taxes.
Yeah. Well, again, I can explain the tax, but just to give the audience the history of it, so they understand what was happening before and what's happening now. Part of the reason for the last administration implementing a lot of the harsh measures were that they were not interested in taking Barbados to the IMF. And they said so more than once. And they attempted to bring out these these local economic programs. I think there were a couple of economic programs that the government tried to roll out. The Barbados Sustainable Renewable something, and it attempted to, and this is the reason why we had high NIS debt, because the government was borrowing from the NIS to pay public servants. The government was borrowing money from the central bank as well, because nobody will lend us money. And at that time, we were only $1 billion in debt to the international community. So over 10 years, the government, I think, only borrowed $1 billion compared to now. The government was only in 5 years, and they would have borrowed $4 billion plus in 5 years compared to the $1 billion that the last government borrowed in 10. Right? And part of the reason for that borrowing was locking us into the IMF program and coming up with this so-called BERT program. And if you listen to me and Motley said that this BERT program was completed 2 years before the general election. But still, when people were asking the government, if they were asking the BLP if they were taking us to the IMF, they were denying it. I said that they don't rule it out, but they don't. It's not their first option. And the first thing they did when they got in was straight to the IMF. No consultation, no talk to anybody. So we were warning Barbadians even before the government got in that they were going to take us to the IMF, because if you look at their manifesto, they had debt reprofiling in it, and debt reprofiling is debt restructuring, and that's how they came up with this work plan. So we got the work plan, and then we got Kevin Greenwich, and Kevin Greenwich came on here as part of the work plan to help implement the work plan on behalf of the IMF, and that's how we ended up with $650 million plus in taxes since the government came in per year. And some of those taxes are the repeat. Let me get no here. I got no here. The fuel tax, which is 40 cents per liter, and then we had the raising the income tax, so the government increased the income tax by up to 40%. The government increased corporation taxes from 25 to 30%. The government implemented the VAT on online transactions. The government implemented the health service contribution that they spoke about to help finance healthcare, and the hospital is getting much worse. So that was supposed to raise $50 million a year since implemented in 2018. So we need some accounting for that health service levy.
Yep, because we can't see what's being done with that money.
Yeah. I can tell you what is being done with it. The national insurance pays it to the hospital, and then it goes through the chute, because there's no proper system. When you raise a tax, I said this in the last program or 2 programs ago, the money goes into the consolidated fund.
Yes, national you did.
Insurance does not collect taxes. And they did it, the National Insurance did it, the Water Authority. As a matter of fact, when they raised it in the Senate, they made an amendment so that the Water Authority can collect this money, because it's a tax. Taxes must, they raise it in a budget. And when you put a tax in a budget, in order for it to qualify, it must go into the consolidated fund. This government is breaching every law and is hiding the people's money from them. You know, that is as serious as it gets. They know what the law is. They ignore it and do what they like. And nobody's really holding them to account. But we got to do it, because it's the boss is doing it. For God fall on us.
That's it. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We are educating the people. And I know that once Barbados understands what's happening, we are going to have one of the most formidable opposition ever in the history of this country. Continue, Kimar. We also have the lawyers here for child protection, and she's going to talk to us a bit about that a little later, right after Kimar. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, we had the departure tax, and that departure tax was intended to transition the BTMI, which is the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., and the Barbados Tourism Product Authority, into a public-private partnership Again, we're hearing our public-private partnerships ain't quite regular, and the government retaining minority shareholder in it. And that was to facilitate these new institutional arrangements and had these institutions to be self-funded, right? Where you have these self-funding initiatives, you got to look at how much money these taxes are making. And as Casual said, the government is circumventing the consolidated fund. And all of these taxes going in, we don't have any account for them already. You have to rely on the word of mouth from ministers and government. And we clearly see that they can lie. So that is the problem. They also implemented an air travel and tourism development fee, and where they tax you to travel if you're traveling CARICOM or if you're traveling international, they tax you for two different tax rates. They also implemented a room levy on your Airbnbs and 10% shared accommodation fees. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They also increased, well, this is lately now, they reversed the fees at the University West Indies, and most of the other projects that they would roll out in terms of taxation came through levies and fees. So we removed, remember they removed all of the direct taxation on income. They alleviated those and put all of the taxes on your indirect things. So the indirect things would be gas, light, water, these essentials. They remove the taxes that they take from income taxes and give you the impression that you will get increased, and economists call it discretionary income.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
so I spoke about the municipal solid waste tax before, and the municipal solid waste tax was charged on properties and property owners who had a property over approximately $280,000. So what the sewage tax did know was to open up the tax bar from just homeowners, and they put it on every single household. So now everybody had to pay, as opposed to the middle income or the higher income earners. They put the tax right on poor people now. Right? So I never thought it was fair to charge everybody the same rate when there are people in Barbados who could afford to pay more. You let them pay more. But the government has this habit of charging the rich a very cheap and subsidized rate and putting the majority of the burden on the lower income people in Barbados.
Yeah, it's a pattern. That's the pattern.
But look
Uh,
what happened. The same low income poor people go out there and want red t-shirts and want to kill you if you say something about them. They got them brainwashed, you know. They don't realize how really silly they are. And that they'll go out there with a red t-shirt and you cannot say, man, you know how many times they get cursed for saying that the government doing foolishness? The same people in red t-shirts walking about the place begging, you know, you want a red t-shirt begging. And they're pumping the money in the rich people's hands. You ain't getting nothing, but you voted them in, you know.
mhm.
And the people are brainwashed or silly or both. I still think that this government is acting in their best interest. It is acting in the best interest of capital.
Yeah.
The people who
So
got the money, they're acting in the best interest. You want to know why? Because those people give them money. They give them bribes. You got a little two-door shop. You can't get a boy in a politician a bribe. You can help them raise the money to help in their campaigns. And the thing is, the campaign financing laws that are there, they hear people asking to have, they're already there. And the government and the opposition, everybody ignore them and do what they like. So a poor fella can't get into the house because the laws are designed that anybody, rich or poor, can compete for a seat in the house. But you have this multimedia performance and all kind of stuff all going out there. That is against the law. When you have facts during political parties put on facts during a campaign, that is a criminal offense. But you know who's going to lock them up? The police, the chief electoral officer? No. But that is the problem. Barbados is probably one of the most corrupt places in the world. And we think But because some players called Transparency International that does not know what's happening on the ground out here, give us a higher rating. That we we are not so bad. No, we are worse. This is little Sicily.
Mm-hmm. You know, you're hearing all of these things, you know, Kimar, and they're you know, I heard someone from the church, they told me, well, you know, I don't march. I don't march. But when you think of all the injustices that we're here talking about tonight, and we're going to get into the child protection bill. We're going to spend about 20 minutes on it, and then get back to you know, some of the other issues, the injustices that we have to that we're facing here in Barbados. You know, one can't help but think about, you know, the Christian faith is all against injustice. You know, I read for you guys something, a scripture from Isaiah 10, right? That talks about you know, the fact that God is against injustices. And tomorrow you will hear people as well, church people, listen to something like this tonight that we're doing, and they will want to tell us that no, they can't come out, right? When Isaiah 10 says, woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees. These things that Kimar was just talking about, these are unjust laws. All these taxes on the people. I'm getting to, as through this show, I realize that they have collected more taxes than any other government. And look how we're suffering. You think that the Bible would support this? I'm talking
Yeah.
to the Christians that are listening, right, Kimar? You taught me that they collected more taxes than anybody else, right?
But how you think their consultants can get paid? They're gonna tax you. They got more consultants than all the other governments put together. You know, this government now has more consultants than from Barrow's time, all the way through. When you add the consultants that all the other administrations had, this present administration has more than all of them put together. So they're gonna tax you. Those consultants are gonna get paid. When you can get a guy who was a truck driver at Water Authority, now he's a consultant. Consultant what? How to shift gears? But he's a consultant. And people say get $20,000. I don't know how much it is, but I keep saying that figure, and nobody denies it. We have now a consultant truck driver in Barbados. The reason being, is the Barbados Labour Party National Council rep for St. Peter. So they got to take care of their own. Your man's a truck driver.
But these are the things that Isaiah 10 talks about. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. What will you do on the day of reckoning when disaster comes from afar? To whom will you run for help? Where will you leave your riches? And this is why this program exists. This is not a political party. This is us. This is you, the people. This is us standing up for righteousness, standing up for justice. Okay? That's what we are doing here. Kimar is back, and I'm going to give Kimar just another 5 minutes to talk about the taxes, and then we're going to jump into the child protection for about 20 minutes, and then get back into some of the other issues that people are raising on here. But Kimar, just continue for another 5 minutes on the taxes, please.
Yes. Okay, so we had increases in bus fares as well. Can't forget that, from $2 to $3.50. That's a big jump, and they can prove that there are studies that were done by the government that show them that they did not have to raise bus fare to $3.50. If the IMF had their way, bus fare would have been $5 in Barbados. Government also announced that they will be privatizing the Barbados Transport Board, right? And that's something we don't speak about.
Mm-hmm.
So My thinking next is that after the government is done with the pensioners, they're gonna come after the school children who travel free on the bus, and they're gonna say to the school children, if you do not have the digital IDs, then you too now can't travel on the bus for free.
You hold that point there because that's a hot topic that we're going to jump in, right? We're going to jump in that, Mr. Franklin, because that is creating a real problem for a lot of people are concerned about. We're going to jump into that. But gentlemen, just let's take some time here. We have this lovely lady here, and Maynard, lawyer Maynard Holligan, and she's from the church, and you probably think I'm beating up the church, but really and truly, when you hear of these injustices, when you hear Mr. Franklin talk about the long hours the prison officers have to work, and they're not being paid their overtime, and the people not getting their, their sick leave, they're not being paid when they're sick, and those things not following, the government is not following the laws relating to employment. It is very, very disheartening and sad to see that this is happening in the country, and Christians like myself would just sit by and say, well, we're just serving God, and that's all that matters. But I'm glad to see you here tonight.
Good night. Hello,
Good
everyone.
night.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we've gone through a period of peace in Christianity, and we've gotten very accustomed during this period of peace to being in the church building, in the church atmosphere, and we've taken the idea of being the salt and light of the earth, and we've shrunk it down to the point where we are no longer impacting the earth as we ought to. We are to impact governance. We are to speak to the issues of the day. When Jesus was on this earth, he did not just stay in the temple. He spoke, for instance, about giving to Caesar what is Caesar's. He spoke about whatever issues or whatever points that they brought to him. He spoke to the issues of the day. He went not just to the temples, he went all throughout the villages, all throughout the community. He shared with the people, and we have gotten to a point where we need to not kind of hide really inside of this church building, and understand that we have to go out there and we have to get involved and impact the community and impact governmental decisions. Daniel, the prophet Daniel, and others, Joseph, they were persons who counseled great leaders, and it had nothing to do, we must stop shrinking away and seeing our positions as so small. We can only speak from the pulpit and only speak within the church building. I think we've done a great injustice, and we've not fully carried out our mandate in this earth. That's really what I think. And I would like that to change. I would like the church community to say, I see it there, arise.
Yes.
I would like them to arise.
That's what it says here, the church army arise. And that's what you're doing with the child protection bill. You have been, you've been speaking a lot about this as a lawyer. And I think that is important. So what are some of the concerns about the child protection bill that you would want Barbadians to be aware of?
I read the bill over again just a few days ago. Again, it is too wide. The parameters of some of the provisions in this bill are simply too wide. But also, now let me say this. The bill can do great good. It can do great good. We want and we need to protect our children. Yeah. But the bill in the hands of the wrong people, if it becomes an act, can also be misused and corrupted to do great wrong. And that's why we have to be careful with the width and some of the ambiguous terms or vague meanings given in certain circumstances. We need to tighten up, make sure that phrases and words that are used, such as the word harm, this word must be given a definition. We must know what these different types of harm are. Harm is used many times in this bill. I know some persons would say it's just going to go to the dictionary meaning. But boy, when we come down to interpretation, it can become a serious debate. Let's not allow that. Let's keep it tight and give things the meanings that they need to have so that when we are looking at this bill now in situations, we know what we're talking about. That's really, I think that's my main concern. But the other concern is, you see, had this bill being written in an environment where there was no LGBTQ, my only real criticism would be, okay, we need to tighten up some of these terms, make sure everything is, clear so that nobody can misconstrue anything. And that would be it. I might have one or two other little nitty gritty, concerns, but that would be it for the primary concerns. But in an environment, a global environment, and in a context where the other day we were having to be looking at the bathroom stall sign, and there was also the test given to our young children in this environment, not just the overseas environment. The fact is that we know that we are encamped about it's coming, or it's here. In this environment, I am concerned about the bill because it can open floodgates for transitioning of children. And what do I mean by that? I am saying it can open up the floodgates. It can allow for a lot of children, boys, deciding they want to transition to girls, to sexually become girls, to dress like girls, to castrate themselves and take hormones and different things to try to become females, which they could never be, but to try to become females, and girls to sew up their vaginas to try to become boys, and so on, something. All sorts of ridiculous surgeries can be opened up. No, again, had it not been in this environment, I would not have this concern. And the truth is, I may sound like a liberal Christian. I do not believe it is based on my Christian faith. Homosexuality is a sin. Great. So all of that is sinful. But but based on my faith as well, God allows people to have will. So if you're over the age of 18 and you decide, I would disagree with you, and I would tell you why, and I will base it upon my biblical beliefs. But you are over the age of 18 and this is something you have thought about and you want to do, you're an adult, I will respect your decision. I will disagree, but I will respect your decision. God gives man will to do as he wishes, whether it be good or evil, but not my little child. I got a problem with that. The bill allows for surgeries to be carried on. The bill takes away the need for consent. Consent has been a sacred thing for parents to hold. The bill, once you are a child in need of care and it finds that you are to be removed from the parents' control, care and control, then there's no need for parental consent or anything. Anything. So
let me just stop you there, because someone might say, I've read the bill and I don't see that in there. which is a lot of what you hear on brass tacks and so on. I saw David Commission, he sent out something saying it's not in the bill. This is after
That what is not in the bill? That transitioning children is not in the bill,
right. So that's what they will say, you know, and because he had a whole tirade on you know, he sent out about this whole thing. And you know, against what Dr. Umar, who read the bill and saw what you saw
Yeah,
in the bill
this is
coming
it.
from
This is it.
yeah.
When you are weaving webs of deception, you're deceiving. You're not going to come flat out and say, I'm coming for your children, although they have declared this in LGBT parades. They have said they're here, they're queer, and they're coming for our children, but they're not coming in the bill and saying we doing this. What it is that you structure things in such a way that it allows for everything, including what they would like to do. So there is no statement of LGBTQ. There's no statement of transitioning. But guess what? This is not the only law in Barbados. We being beginners at drafting law in Barbados, you know, when you draft law and you realize that if it is drafted too widely, it could include another area, which would be then taking it from the area of a positive affecting law to a negative affecting law, so that there's some wrong that would come about. Then you simply put provisions within the legislation to state that this law shall not be construed in any way to be allowing X, Y, or Z.
And let me just hasten to remind our viewers that Mrs. Maynard Holligan is an attorney. And so she is breaking it down for us and saying to us, it is wide, and parents be careful. Because I know some people say, well, you know, and here I see another lawyer here saying, right, it will be the issue of interpretation. So there's another lawyer on here who is also agreeing with Mrs. Maynard Holligan, who is a lawyer. So I think parents, you've got to listen up. Listen up to those people who have, because they know that they could argue this down, right? You could argue based on interpretation, right?
Yes.
Lawyer? Yeah, you could do that.
Argue based on interpretation, and that's the point, because you see, there's this thing. I remember when a long time ago, there's this thing I was taught called the law according to the chancellor's foot. And basically what it means is that when one person was was the judge or the chancellor at that time, the law was according to his thinking. But when somebody else came in, then the law suddenly changed. It don't mean that no more. It's according to the next guy's thinking. What we try to do in the modern times is to have uniformity in our laws, to put checks and balances in place, to keep things making a certain line of sense, rather than to allow it to go to the left or to the right, backward or forward. We try to box it in, so we know these are the parameters. Your interpretation is within this box. I have a concern, a real concern, when I look at various different policies, government policies, when I see changes being made to other acts regarding sexual orientation and so forth. It is clear that sexual orientation has been established in our law. Okay, as I said, when you are an adult, you have go your way. Sexual orientation has been adopted in the Human Rights Declaration, the Declaration of Human Rights. It is. I remember saying it is a human right before. It is more than it's more. It is in the preamble. It is one of those factors that of a human being that it's like race, and you cannot discriminate against a person.
So that's what they have done. They have made it into that right now.
Yes, that's what they have done. And so we must accept, because it is a part of the law. It's being put into our, but I don't know if it will definitely stay. It's not being issued fully at this time, but our draft chart, our draft, it's, I believe it's in the charter and it's in our draft constitution. Sorry. Um, so yes, we know sexual orientation is about. My concern is therefore what will it mean when it is interpreted with respect to young children, sexual orientation, and them wanting to possibly transition, where it is allowed based on the bill for them to have surgery based on what they call emotional abuse when they may start to feel or claim to be suicidal because they have gender dysphoria. They're starting to wonder if they're a boy or a girl, which is really, let me say this. Gender dysphoria has not just popped up. However, the way we treat with gender dysphoria has changed drastically. No, rather than asking questions, trying to assist persons to first, believe who they're born to be and so forth. The new, hey, oh yes, I see you're putting that up. Yes, the new approach is to simply confirm. I really hope that we don't catch on to that part in Barbados, or at least that our counselors and so forth could punish parents who don't affirm child's gender. Yes, this is exactly what is happening overseas. And you see, okay, I from looking at everything that's happening, believe that a great framework is being put in place for this transitioning to be promoted. So this part here, the child protection bill, is the legal framework, but it goes beyond the legal framework. It goes to the school teachers being educated and sensitized, emotional sensitivity. I heard a workshop about that before. I'm not sure what it had to do with, but considering the context in which we are operating, I did wonder, what does this have to do with? Does this have anything to do with sensitivity to LGBTQ and gender dysphoria? It has to do with and guidance counselors and psychologists to change their thinking in terms of not telling persons who are questioning their sex, well, maybe you are who you're born as, but instead saying, well, you must be the opposite. It's going to me in a negative direction. This is what's happening overseas. And all I'm saying, the real crux of the matter is, in light of it all, the question that we must ask as Barbadians is, do we want our minor children to be transitioned? Again, there are other areas in the act that I do have some issues with, like for instance the word harm, the word mistreat. There are areas where it's just too wide. The act refers to the reasonable preference of the child. It doesn't say preference of what. I find that interesting. That's at section 9.
The reasonable preference.
The reasonable preference.
Ah, wow! No, I didn't see that. I didn't see that when I read that. Mr. Franklin, you saw that piece in there? Wait, you're muted.
No, that one escaped me too. I didn't see that. I am learning to. That's what I'm sitting so quiet and listening.
The reasonable preference,
yes,
of the child, huh? Kimar, you saw that?
No, I observing too.
Wait, go into that a little bit more. We have 5 minutes. When you see why we have to bring them back every night, because every area is so important, and this is one of the areas, listeners, that we are going to be marching about tomorrow. This is so critical, and we will have special. We are going to have those placards are going to be available tomorrow as well. So come And those of you who want to walk with that kind of placard, it will be available to you. All right. So come out, come out, come out. Here's the lawyer again saying, read the section in entirety, please. Right. It's asking to read the section so you're saying about this preference.
Okay, no,
So
at
continue.
various, yes, at various, uh, you see the thing there is the word preference. It's a very interesting word to have been used, considering that on the international context, especially in LGBT, preference has to do with your gender. It comes, sorry, it's used often with respect to you preferring a particular gender. So the act speaks widely about taking the opinion of the child, which is wonderful. But at this section, and this is section 9, part subsection 3, part N. So that's 9.3N. Yes, you have it up. It says the reasonable preference of the child. And what is this with respect to? Let me read the top. In determining what is in the best interest of a child, the authority shall, in addition to the principles set out in section 3.2, take into consideration the following, amongst various other things it mentions at subsection N: the reasonable preference of the child if the authority considers the child to be of an age, a maturity to express such preference. Now, in the outside world, they consider a child of 3 years old and so forth to be sufficiently mature and of such age to be able to determine his or her own sex, whether he or she is female or male or both or something in between, or a cat or a dog. Yes, it is happening. There are children who are purring, not learning to speak, and it is being allowed, and no one is allowed to correct them. So when you see the word of preference here, I am concerned. They do not say just opinion now, and they use that word preference, which has a certain connotation, a certain slant, in the wider context of things. Again, as I said earlier on, and I tried to say early on, all of this concern can be eliminated if we simply, first and foremost, if it is that we are truly putting the interests of the children as our paramount concern and interest, can be averted. If we first say, are we allowing, and it has been said the Prime Minister is not pushing this agenda, and if so, then we can simply put a provision in this act, in this bill, which to become the act, stating that there is nothing in this act, there is no provision which in any form or fashion, in any way, is to be interpreted as to be allowing or facilitating the transitioning of minor children.
Okay, I
And
see.
then
So
we
you're
ideally,
offering a solution. You're offering a
yes,
solution. The
yes. And then we,
solution, yeah.
so
Go
so
ahead.
so 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 what I am saying is, okay, I'm sure before a child reaches the age of 18, they're going to start to go through, because they're learning. There are many decisions they start to make. They will start to make certain decisions regarding their identity. They're going to make decisions regarding what they see themselves as. Let me put it that way. And there are going to be issues of LGBTQ that may come up for some children. But before the age of 18, besides you mentally deciding to decide whatever you may decide, you cannot castrate yourself. For instance, you cannot take hormone blockers, which can prevent you from being able to have children. If you were to decide, I don't want to do
Right.
this anymore, you cannot go back. It is not really a temporary thing. It is permanent. You know, it is damaging to your body. You cannot do that. So we get to save our children who sometimes, let's just be real, it's peer
So,
pressure, it's
so
wanting
I
to be
can ask a
popular.
question.
Yes, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So you're saying that if I ask a child, if I'm the parent of a child,
Mhm.
and I ask this child, do you want something to eat? And the child look at me holler for bow wow roof roof roof. I go accept that as as the language
The
them child
world
speak
is
to me, and
going
I cannot.
crazy. The world is
Yes,
going crazy.
dog choke.
Oh my lord. Anyhow, what I am saying to you, right, is that in the outside world, which I mean, I call it outside world. The world is very small. We're all interconnected. In the Europes and Canada and the United States and Australia and those areas of the world, it's being rejected firmly in other areas. But in those areas of the world, as far as I can remember now, primarily those areas of the world, the areas which have largely influenced Barbados, um, yes, children are being allowed to make those decisions, to decide if they, I mean, from young, they're actually encouraging it from preschool. Yes, in certain territories from preschool, from the youngest children are not capable of making such decisions, but they so want to twist and corrupt the young that they are attacking our children, their children, from such young ages. And yes, if they are so influential on our land in so many ways, they're going to come here with this. So that is why we must be proactive. We are not, I've heard it said that you're taking issues from abroad and bringing them here. You're not trying to create an issue that doesn't exist. You're being proactive. You're seeing that this can lead to a great issue, and it can all be avoided if there is the insertion in the bill of something that says we are not trying to do this. And what it does is it gives our children a little protective barrier, a
Right.
little time to just come to fullness of age and get through school a bit and get out of some peer pressure and some of the madness of growing up, and to decide truly who you are without that pressure on you. Because sometimes it's just those pressures.
I
It
think
doesn't.
what you're saying is so fair. I think what she's saying, Mr. Franklin, put it in writing and let it rest. So
Yes.
that, because right, in Trinidad, I know I said 5 minutes, but the couple more minutes in Trinidad today, Mr. Franklin's a friend of mine there sent me a note saying that a teacher went before a class, a male teacher, and introduced himself as Mrs. Somebody and confused the children.
Mhm.
The whole class confused
Mhm.
because he stands up there and the children can clearly see that he's a man, and
Mhm.
he says, I am Mrs. So and so. And these are the kind of things. And I mean, in our school here, part of the whole grooming policy, and so they said that it's a gender neutral. We're in a gender neutral setting in our school, so it's possible for a teacher to come into school, a male teacher to come and say, I'm Mrs., or a man or a female to come and say, I am Mr. And my concern is the confusion on these children.
Now, the LGBTQ do not consider this confusion. They are trying to rewrite the rules in the world. This is supposed to be the new understanding of persons and not a state of confusion. And it's dangerous, especially if we decide to adopt different pronouns and to entertain it. But it's coming. I've seen an article where the University of the West Indies wants, or probably has, I didn't follow it, to accept different pronouns for persons. So when you go into a lecture, there's a man there. He can say, I am not a man, I am a they. I am many in one. There's
They're full of demons.
it's possible, huh? But one other thing I wanted to highlight,
Yes.
Mr. Franklin, I remember last time you were asking me about financial abuse, and we never got to speak about financial abuse. There were so many different things we were talking about. Um, no, I do not really believe. Now, again, things are wide and so forth, but I don't really believe that. Okay, the question you asked was whether a father who's unable to pay his child support, if that would be considered financial abuse. Yeah, you remember that?
I remember correctly.
Great. um Now, financial abuse speaks to if you're withholding, for instance, to coerce, to deceive, to intimidate, and to hinder. So I guess it really goes to the motive of the father. um in the question is he really unable to pay? What is really happening? And of course, you'd have to have evidence to prove one way or another what he's really up to. Other than that, I don't believe he'd be able to say that he's 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 guilty of financial abuse. But I did find something interesting other than that, and it's at section 50 of the act, which speaks to contribution and maintenance. Sorry, 51 is contribution, and section 50 is maintenance. Let me find it here so I can read from the bill. Sorry, I keep calling it the act. It's the bill. Let me just find it. Section 50, maintenance of children. Now, this is not financial abuse. Now, the director may arrange with the parents of a child for a contribution according to their means towards the maintenance of the child who is in the care of the authority. And let's go down a little. I just want to make sure I'm reading it. I want to read it from here. '50. So at 50 point, 50, section 53. So I found it. Where a person other than the parent is liable to maintain a child, an order under this section may be made against that person. And I found that to be interesting. Now, I don't know ultimately how this section will be interpreted by a judge, but they're saying here, to my understanding, that there is a person who is not a parent, and this person can be held liable for the maintenance of a child. No, let me say this. This maintenance of children and so forth. This has this already. If you can, this is under either the cruelty to children. Pardon?
Money maintenance. All right.
Yeah, well, we have it under the Maintenance Act, but I mean the maintenance of children when removed. So we have it under the Maintenance Act, and then either the cruelty to children or the Protection of Children Act, as is already existing, has a system already created whereby when children are removed from the care and control of the parent, the child care board, as it is now, can get maintenance or contribution from the parent. This here, though, is saying that is a person who is not a parent who can be liable to maintain a child. I find that to be interesting. Now, you remember years ago, there was a huge debate in Barbados where the there was the attempt to put something in place where men who were not the actual biological fathers of children were going to be put in a position where they would have to pay maintenance.
Yes, I remember that, and I agree with it.
Okay. Well, I do think though that possibly, not necessarily, but that's possibly the line that this here is going
Where
down.
this might be going down that
But
line.
it could be speaking to someone like me because I'm an executor and the father and his will left a certain amount of money and I'm supposed to give it to the children in small increments every month.
Yes, it could be speaking to someone like you. And it can also be speaking to a grandmother or an auntie. But it could also be speaking to the guy who has a girlfriend who isn't working and he is the chief breadwinner of that house. And maybe he has a child from her, but the other child isn't his. And that child goes into the care and control of the authority. And so I find it to be a very interesting section there.
That would be ridiculous.
But yeah, pardon?
That would be ridiculous, you know. I
Wow.
well, that child still has a father, you know.
Yeah, but the question then would be, is that person not liable to maintain the child? Okay, had that child remained in the home, would he not have been liable for the maintenance of the child? The mother isn't working. Who knows where the father is? The father, let's say the father is deceased. Who knows where the father is? What happens then? I just find it to be a very interesting section. Again, we must think of the width of these things. But perhaps I'm just thinking of too many possibilities and going too wide. You
Yeah,
know,
but that is why the clarity is necessary.
that
And
is why.
right, and we are inviting people to come out tomorrow. Remember, we have the march. The march. I've got the. I've got the. I have the. Thank you. I have the permit here in my hand, Mr. Franklin. The permit is here, and so we want people to come out and make your voices be heard. They used to say it's it's just Mrs. DeJohn alone making noise about it, and she's not a lawyer and she doesn't know what she's saying, etc., etc. Here we have a lawyer on here tonight, and she's agreeing with Mr. John, right? And so we're coming out tomorrow. All the placards are going to be up there for you. You just need to turn up, put on your clothes, bathe your skin. Night in Jamaica, we say bathe your nice clean skin, and come out, right? Come out tomorrow. The permit is here. Police and protection, everything is going to be in hand. Everybody come out, come out. And Mrs. Maynard Holligan, I want to thank you so much for
Before
coming on.
before you do that,
Yes.
I just want to comment. You know, they must go after our children. Those perverts who are pushing this
Come up a
agenda,
little closer. Come a little closer.
those persons who are pushing this agenda must go after their children because you know, two rams don't make a lamb. So those perverts can't breed. So they gotta get new stock, and that's what we have to do. We have to fight to keep our children safe from them, even if they're in government. Ask the mama.
You know, I agree with you, and I want especially the church to understand that not just especially the church. That's not correct. I want the church to understand as well that we need to get territorial about safeguarding that which is ours. They are our children, and we cannot allow them to be taken and corrupted and twisted by other persons. And that's correct. They can't reproduce, and their thinking can crumble down to very little because they don't have children. And I don't know, we don't allow much adoption of persons here, but we need to vigorously defend our children. We need to march. We need to stand in unity. We need to be the salt and the light. Those of you who are not Christians, they're your children. You have children. They're your godchildren, your nieces, your nephews. You need to stand in unity against the passing of this bill as is. We cannot
Somebody's
allow it to
asking
become
here.
law.
Somebody and is this child bill law already? So she's been asking.
It is not law already. it is a bill. It is before Parliament. It is not yet an act, and we need to make sure it does not become an act in its current form.
Yes.
It has passed one house so far, though. It has passed the lower house, and in the upper house, no, it's a formality. So
I thought they were still it was still for consultation, that they were still taking responses and so forth.
no, that's after they get pushed back. They're doing it after the fact.
All right. So it's gone back down before Parliament and they're taking consultation now. Right.
But
So that's
you
why
heard,
we, the opposition, need to speak.
yes.
Yes, Marcia.
That's what I was going to say. This is the time now. Did you hear that? For those who say it doesn't make any sense to go out there, it doesn't make any sense. Did you hear? Because of the pushback, they've gone to look at it, to review it. And this is why we need to have a presence out there tomorrow. And when we're speaking to the media, we include this as well. So they know that this is one of the reasons we're out there, and to continue to put the pressure on. Well, thanks again, Mrs. Maynard Holligan, for being on tonight and educating us. And I know we this is the third night I think we've had dealing with the child protection bill, because repetition is important. And there are some people who didn't join the night before, so the repetition is important. And I thank you for coming on and making that possible. Right? And I see you tomorrow. You're coming tomorrow?
Yes, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, make sure. So we'll be walking tomorrow. We're marching tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mrs. Maynard Holligan. Have a good evening.
Take care. Good night to all.
Good night.
Yes. That was good. That was good. And the repetition is important, because we were hearing things tonight, Kimar, that we didn't hear the night before. And I think that this is great. But the people ready to delve in, Mr. Franklin, in this pin where they're trying to stick you. Pin. Where they're telling us now, all of a sudden they change their mouth on us and they're talking to us about this ID card. Have me thinking, what is going to happen? And there's supposed to be a town hall that is coming up on Monday, which is another reason why we need to make sure that we are out there, because this town hall is coming up on Monday, where they're going to be packing up the people's head with all kinds of nonsense. What are your thoughts, Mr. Franklin, about this ID card?
You see, the thing is, this ID card is not a homegrown thing. Our Prime Minister goes out and it's influenced by people out there who want to use us as guinea pigs, basically. They want to use this in Barbados because we are a small control group. We are an island, and there's not too many people, so you can test it out on us. So we are given that privilege, if you can call it that, to be the guinea pigs. It didn't only happen with this, it happened with the, what?
The jokes and the jabs.
And because we had one that came from India, and we were the first people in the world to use it. Not even the Indians use it. And they go out there, and then it turned out that it wasn't effective at all, and it did more harm than good. But it did more harm than good. It did more harm to us here. That is why the Minister of Labour could not say why the excess deaths in 2020, where they were coming from. So they got to do research. How to do research? We know where they come from, because we, the guinea pigs, I mean you, the guinea pigs, because nobody else touched that but me. I tell you, the only time that get close to me is if I'm walking through the clinic and the nurse drops the vial and it breaks, they walk through some. That's the only way it will get anywhere near me. I'm very serious, because we have, and that's one thing I will never forgive her for. When I say her, I mean the Honorable Prime Minister. She has allowed people in the world to use Barbadians as guinea pigs. The Identity Management Bill and that other thing with the jokes, we have been used. This is something everybody in Barbados come up with, and see if we can do this. And I remember when she was testifying before Senate or some of the Congress in the United States, and she was talking about the digital ID. One of the senators said, I don't know what it is. We don't have that. We don't have that in the States, or the planet have it in the States, but they're trying to on us first. Let's see how it works. Why can't we sit back and wait until if it does work well for other people? Then we can say maybe we'll try it. No, we are the guinea pigs, and I do not like being a guinea pig. I don't have one. I don't want one. If you do not know me, I'll use my passport. I'll use my driver's license. Mind you, this bill, this this Barbados Identity Management Bill is saying that you can't get a passport, you can't get a driver's license unless you have that.
Do say that again, Mr. Because a lot of people.
They are saying to us now, I think it is section 510 or something. So I can find it for you quickly, where they're saying that you cannot get the, if you don't have that, you'll not be able to vote. You can't be registered to vote. You can't get an ID card number. You can't get an ID number. You can't get a driver's license. So it is more insidious than people think it is. It's just not an ID card. It's a card where they will control you or be able to know that it is pinned, or they insist that it is pinned. You will be monitored every step of the way.
So hold a minute, Mr. So what about if you need to renew your passport? If you don't have the ID, can you renew your passport?
In order to renew your passport, you got an ID card.
So you can't have any passport.
I don't understand that, simply because a passport is good for identification.
Mm-hmm.
It identifies you to foreign countries. Barbados government is saying, see this document that we give here? This says that that person there is Caswell Franklin, and that please allow him to pass freely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we guarantee you that this is him. But for Barbados, we are not saying, well, it is not me. You got to get that ID card. The same document they are producing for the world at large, they're not going to accept here in Barbados. That is completely ridiculous. I do not know what other motives, but it has to be some improper motive that you will say, well, you can't obtain a driver's license. And you can't, and mind you, it says here, and if you don't have it, you can't qualify to access any service or goods which require the presentation of an identification card to obtain such services or goods. Meaning?
Listen, you need to read that again, because I don't think that people realize that this is what actually in this bill. It's an act. It's actually an act. It's passed already, right?
Yes, it is passed. It was passed in the secretly in 2021, and in an emergency session in the House and the Senate, without telling people that it was even on the agenda, and then sprang on us in 2023. And it says here, a person who is not registered under this act shall not, A, be added to the National Register, B, be assigned a national registration number, C, be issued with an identification card or a national identity credential, D, qualify to be added to the Register of Electors or the revised Register of Electors prepared under the Representation of the People Act. Let's talk about the voters list. That's what that means. So you can't go on the voters list. DE, qualify to obtain a driver's permit or license. Or F, qualify to access any service or goods which require the presentation of an identification card to obtain such services or goods. The last time I went to the hospital, even though they lost my blood, I had to produce my ID card. So if I don't have that identity card now, I can't get the blood test at the hospital. I can't get treatment at the hospital. I can't get my money at the bank. It's a whole range of services. It is ridiculous. I know they're insisting that if you want to travel on the bus, you're going to pin it. But I understand why I pin my bank card. Because I want to be able to access my money when I'm ready for it. But why am I pinning this card? What am I accessing? Or is it they're accessing something from me? Because I don't understand why I got to pin an ID card for somebody to look at my beautiful face and say, oh, that's Gabriel Franklin. No, something is wrong. Something is insidious that they're keeping from us. And the Prime Minister thinks that she can come on radio and TV and sweet talk us, and we will fall into line. And something else I must warn you about. She said that 220,000 people already have the ID card. That cannot be true. We don't have so many people in Barbados eligible for ID cards. Want to know why? You get the ID card from 16. And so you have from 0 to 15.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not one of these people who go for the scientific things. I go quite easily. I say every year about 3,500 people do the common entrance exam. Every year. Roughly 3,005. So if we multiply 3,005 by those 15 years, and you add that to the 220,000, you can get more than the people in Barbados.
So you're thinking that she's overstating the number of people?
She is. You like to call words like overstating and thing. I am not so diplomatic, Marcia. I think she's lying.
But you know that was done to the jobs. That was done about the jobs, about how many persons took the jobs. We did a whole show breaking down and showing the inconsistency or the overstating or the lying, that they do all the time, But and I was wondering about that number. But they're probably overstating to get everybody to say, oh well, everybody's gone into it and they're doing it now. Wow. So we're getting it here according to the act that Mr. Franklin is reading from, the Barbados Identity Act. You can't vote. And actually, in all honesty, I remember though the leader of the DLP, Ronnie talking about this, Ronnie Yearwood spoke about this, and he was saying that it is for all intents and purposes that it is mandatory, and they were saying that he was not telling the truth, that it was mandatory. And Ronnie from the DLP, you have to give him that. He stood up, and he was at one point he was one of the few voices, and he said that he's not going to get a card, and he won't be doing any pinning of the card. Anybody remember that? He did. I have to speak the truth. He did.
But remember, the Attorney General said it was not mandatory. An Attorney General who comes out and consistently mislead people should not be Attorney General.
All of them need to fire. They need to be removed. The whole set of them.
He said it was not mandatory. And he said it was not mandatory because the Jamaicans took it before the court, and the court ruled it was unconstitutional. So they had to come back and say something. There's also a provision in this thing that says with your consent, they can take your fingerprints. Right?
Right. Ronnie was speaking about that as well, about the fingerprints. I remember him saying that on Brass Tacks, and I like to be honest in what I'm saying, because I remember he was one of the only voices. I want to know what happened to him now. I don't hear him saying anything about the ID recently. But go ahead.
You see, what my fear is that this government has gone back on so many words, broken so many laws, that this with your consent might just disappear, and it will be that you have to produce your fingerprints too. So I will be there. The with my fingerprints, and these are my personal prints. You can only take them from me if I'm suspected of a crime, and if when the police book me and I am found not guilty, they're gonna destroy those fingerprints. You can't even keep them. So why would you want somebody to keep my fingerprints in the database?
So how are they planning to get this the fingerprints? Is it going to be I'm trying to understand what's the process here.
No, there's several machines that you can just put your hands in and they will take your fingerprints, and then that will be stored in some database. God knows when somebody can lift my
But okay, but you're
too.
saying it's with my consent. It should be with my. They're saying.
Yes, they're saying that with the consent of the person. The thing is, I don't trust this government with my biometrics. I don't trust them with things
It's a
because
storing. So it's a storing of the fingerprints.
yes, because I don't trust them. But mind you, they're saying that with your consent. But what I'm saying to you is that they have gone back on their word too many times for me to trust anything that they say, because eventually that will become mandatory, just like the ID card.
Right. That we were told that it's not mandatory, and no, I heard Kimar. Let's bring Kimar in here a bit. Kimar, you were saying about you started to talk about the children.
Yeah,
That they've gone after the elderly, and then they're going to go to the next vulnerable group, right?
yeah,
It's going to be the children. So talk to us a little bit about that before we get back to Mr. Franklin.
yeah. Well, as part of the IMF program and the privatization of the transport board, the government, much like all the other public services, will now seek out, or they're going to claim they're seeking out the persons who need it most, who need the help the most. So as opposed to providing like broad-based financing or the free for all financing, they're going to say, well, look, the only way we can find out how many people, how many students really and truly use the free bus fare, we can ask all the students to register through their digital ID,
Mm-hmm.
to register so that you could benefit from free bus fares. And the government will say that they will be cutting out the wastage as opposed to paying for all of them when some of them or most of them don't use the free bus fare. That's the slang or the trick they're going to cover to get the young people know that go to school to hold up on these ideas. And it would be marketed as this cool kind of fads where I got my idea, I could get on the bus free, I just gotta pay or whatever. So that will be used to capture the minds of the youth
Mm-hmm.
into getting the digital IDs. Now, once you get the children and you capture the imagination of the youth to now capture the parents, because if the children have one and they quote unquote see no harm, then the children will say, well, but when the parents will say, well, hey, well, let me now go and get mine. So by that time, they would have done taken down the elderly, and they would have taken down the youth, which are the two most vulnerable groups. And if you capture those groups, you could always capture the others in the it's ticking. You can
Yeah.
always capture the others via the legislation. So the legislation say you can't vote, you can't get a driver's license, you can't get a passport. Those are services now that the over 18s, the adults mostly use. So you can capture the others
Mhm. You're sticking a bit. I'm gonna suggest that is it me or can you hear me, Caswell?
Yes, I'm hearing you quite well.
You hear me quite well. So if Kimar can go out and come back in, because we want to hear what he's saying. Kimar, just go out and come back in if you can hear me. You're sticking a bit. Yes, but continue then. Continue on Mr. Franklin until Kimar we sort Kimar out.
Right? You see, the thing is, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I don't see um, ill ill will and everything that people do or everywhere they go. I see it, but I have seen enough from this administration to prove that they can't be trusted, and that is my fear. Now, everything that they do now, I have to scrutinize because they have a bad track record, a bad track record of lying. I think they have a default position of lying. They just like to default to a lie. And then somebody might say to themselves, you know, somebody, we already didn't have to tell a lie about this. But they're so used to lying, they tell lies about everything. And people somehow believe that because you're a minister of the government, you should be believed.
Mm-hmm.
I am sorry, but look for yourselves and see. Use your own eyes, your mind, your ears, and realize that these people are not telling the truth. They have not told the truth recently. And everything that they have said so far can be disproved. So that is why we have to hold them to account. That is why we have to make sure that when they're saying that they come to us with facts, factual information, and give us the opportunity to review the legislation before they pass it. They're passing too many pieces of legislation without telling the people in this country that it is even being contemplated.
Yeah. Someone is saying after capturing the vulnerables, old and very young, the Prime Minister will launch a campaign called Some Bajans Don't Like Change. They're scared of change. I can see where that is going. And I think let me get Kimar to get back into continue what he was saying before he got bumped out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was saying the government has to find every way possible to stop providing universal financing for social services because of the IMF program. So what they essentially agreed to is to cut, as I say, universal funding to these services and to do it via means testing or means strategy. So the government has to reduce budgets towards the welfare so they can find means and ways to get people off the welfare to cut down the list. You have to stop funding healthcare holistically, so they have to start charging fees at the hospital. Um, you're already paying for garbage and sewage already directly.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I see.
you're already paying the road tax. You're paying to drive on the roads already via the same gas tax, right? So they're putting these, and if you listen to the Prime Minister coming out this year speaking about a no tax budget, but no taxes does not mean no levies and fees because it's just difference in jargon. It's just jargon language. Taxes, levies and fees. Levies and fees go directly on the state-owned enterprise, and the government could put it on your bill and charge you where that route, as opposed to coming and putting a tax in the budget. So levies and fees is the way they've been going to draw money directly from the population to fund these state-owned enterprises that they agree with the IMF that they were going to cut in the original plan, right? And the government, all they're getting is reserves. So every time they implement a cut to state-owned enterprise, they get a boost up from the IMF. But that money don't make it into the economy. That money just kept there at the central bank to say that the reserves are $2 billion, but they can't spend it into the local economy to help it make any sense for the local population. I made the point on this show already. Who uses the foreign exchange in this country? Hardly the poor people,
Mm-hmm.
right? The big businesses, the banks, the government. The most poor people will use foreign exchange for themselves to buy something on Amazon and to tax that too, right?
Yep.
So they tax that, then they put a 2% for, well, this came in when last, I mean, a 2% tax on foreign exchange transactions, right? And I suppose the banks ain't kick, I suppose the banks ain't kicking more about this, but they put a bank tax on assets, on the bank asset, because at that time the banks were not lending the government money. So the government had to find a crafty way to get money into the banking system because the banking system was not lending the government a Barbados or right cent. And they put
Mm-hmm.
a bank tax on assets to draw money out to the banking system, right? But that happens when you don't have any local banks that the politicians can't control. if we had a local bank that the Ministry of Finance could have controlled, they would have raided that bank, like how they're trying to raid the NAS. And where they're raiding the NAS because they don't have a local banking institution that they could raid. If we ever had a bank in Barbados, they would have borrowed all of the money from it there. But the regulations of the NAS were too stringent, so that's why they had to change them via this new NAS bill, advised by the IMF to show and to put the Minister of Finance and the Ministry of Finance over the NAS to be able to dip in it and use it as a bank to fund whatever operations that they have to. Right? I remember the government found a crafty way to cut public servants' wages via this boss program. Right? That is not how that program is supposed to work. You are not supposed to cut anybody's wages, and it was an illegal act, that boss program, to cut the wages of public servants. Right? They came up with this boss program, and you hear the word they use, forced savings. And because you got public pushback from that name, forced savings, that's when they came up with this crap called boss. Right? The boss program, they say it was not mandatory, they say it was optional. Right? But they were taking out the money, and then if you didn't want the money taken, you had a right to the government every month to say, don't take out your money. But then they were saying it was not mandatory. How can you take out my money up front and then I have to write to you to get back what's mine? That's illegal.
But illegality has never stopped this administration from doing anything.
Well, I mean, it did it. I do it twice because I had two boss programs and all two of them failed because the public servants didn't really have any money to spare. Because at that time we had the LSIP, we had the ASH, we had COVID, we had so many things going on, and the government cut public servants' wages smartly. They say it was not a cut, but it was a cut. If you wanted to do something for public servants, you were never to cut the wage. You should have added on the 4 to 7% or whatever. You should have added it on and then allow it to multiply. You don't cut the wage. You add it on and then ask them to pass on the amount that you. If you put on 7%, you ask the public servants to pass on that 7% into investment. But you don't touch the base wage of workers. We had prime ministers that protected the wages of public servants from many politicians like the ones that we have now, who would come in and use the sword on the people. And they butchered the public service in every way possible to demoralize them, to bring them to this point now where like you're so clouded with information you can't even really understand what's happening.
Right.
You have all of these economists, all of these financial consultants, and you have all of these spokespersons for the government coming up parroting issues that they don't even understand. They did a whole charade up by the what's called up in the aquatic center, the gym, up by the gymnasium, to call the false public servants into signing this thing. And at the end of the day, none of the boss programs reached the target that the government was intended. So they cut public servants' wages for nothing.
Oh my goodness. So it leads us to the whole thing about justice for workers, which is one of the areas, and I'm going to let Mr. Franklin come in here with this one. The justice for workers is one of the areas that we will be marching about tomorrow. Listen, the opposition will be on the streets tomorrow, guys. That's breaking news. The opposition will be on the street tomorrow, 10 o'clock. We're meeting. Yes, we're meeting 10 o'clock. I say to people, come a little before 10 o'clock. The opposition is going to be on the street tomorrow, brandishing our Barbadian colors. Yes, because we fight for this country. We're fighting for the soul of Barbados, and we're going to be out there. We're fighting for our workers. Mr. Franklin, as I heard Kimar talking, it kind of pulled on my heart again about the workers and those that work in the public sector. I see Mr. Bob on here, and I'm lucky for him. Right after the show, the next day, although I know it was in the works, but it just happened that it happened the next day after the show was completed, that he got his reinstatement letter. Okay. So he got his reinstatement letter, but they did not give him the money that was due him, because they were giving him half pay, which he wasn't supposed to happen. But they didn't give him the money that was due him, and then tell him that he has to appeal to a board, right? That a board that does not exist. And this is the kind of thing, that they're doing to the workers, the way that the workers are being treated.
But Marcia, think about the former opposition leader, Joseph Ashley. He sat in Parliament and he was the opposition leader, and he did not receive a cent of salvation from the government, and the money was not all of theirs. It was $300,000 that are put aside for the government and the opposition, and they took all 300,000 for themselves, and
Wow.
that's not supposed to be. The
You,
money
you
is
know,
supposed to be.
this is the thing I tell you. You see, when I put my face, I don't, that kind of behavior. I heard about that. Kimar, Mr. Stewart, I heard about it. And I said, how could someone do that? Bully their way. This woman is a bully. I don't care what you want to. I don't listen. She took all of the money for herself and did not give Miss Atherley a red cent.
I'll tell you about that. It started with Owen Arthur. He provided $150,000 for each party that was represented in the House. They have now interpreted that to say that the party had to have run in the elections, and because Bishop Adley party did not run elections, he is not going to get any. But then only $150,000 should be, if you go follow what they're saying and you believe what they're saying is true and correct, then it should only be $150,000, because each party is entitled to $150,000. Not because there were two, and usually it was two parties, so each party would get $150,000. Next thing you know, they provided $250,000 for themselves, and then take somebody else's. That once, because there was no other party, if you didn't pay the Bishop Adderley, then you should have left it where it was, back in the treasury or whatever. No, they misappropriated it. They took all. They are greedy.
Greedy, and we are sitting back and allowing them to treat people like that. And people will sit down and they criticize Mr. Athley, and they said, oh, but he didn't have any money for his campaign. He didn't have any money from the campaign because the bully took the money. It's like the bully will take the kid at lunchtime and beat them up and take away their lunch money. That big bully, that's what happened. They took the money. They took the money, Barbados, and I'm telling you, God is not sleeping. I read to you that scripture about injustice. God is not sleeping, and that's why you need to get out there tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And Mr. Bob, what they're doing to Mr. Bob is wrong. It's unjust. It is unfair. It's unrighteous.
But Mr. Bob is a them, so they will do it to him. And you see, and the thing is, my problem is that the people of this country refuse to stand up and say, well, if they do it to the them today, they're going to do it to me. They're not thinking, The only look, over the years, we've had several people who ran in
Come
elections.
up a little closer. Come a little closer. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Over the years, we've had several people who ran in elections. These everybody who were civil servants. Nobody ever charged them with an offense. Mind you, I will maintain that it was not an offense. It has never been an offense since 1966. But it was an offense prior. But when we got our constitution in 1966, they did not address it in the Constitution. It was only when the governor, before independence, he had rules for the civil service, and they could not run. But then our Constitution only barred three categories of persons: judge, director of public prosecutions, and auditor general. If you were not one of those, you can run. But they didn't even realize that the law had changed, and they were still keeping that general order on the books. A general order cannot override the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So even with that, they enforce a law that didn't exist against him. Know that they realized that it's unconstitutional, it was not, it's against the law. They should have said, look, we're stopping. No, they're not doing that. They still have to stick it to him because he's a dem. Look, during that last campaign, we had people who were election agents for, even Santia's election agent was a school teacher. You won't see nobody bring a charge against her. They had a candidate who ran in St. Joseph for the at this party, who was also a teacher. They didn't go after them. They want to destroy the Dems. They want to make sure they have no opposition in this country. That is why this show is so important, because the Dems are not going on there and playing dead. They're not really opposing anything, you know. Every so often they might come up with a little limp opposition, but they're not standing up, not even half of what Mayor used to do, not even a quarter. They are afraid for their shadows, or they're afraid for Mayor. And you mind you, she casts a big shadow, you know.
But let me tell you, I'm telling you, Mr. Franklin, as long as I'm living in this country, as long as I'm a citizen in this country, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to speak up. It hurts my heart to know that we don't have. I'm saying, why don't they keep speaking about the ID? They were doing such a good job with the ID, and then they dropped it. Right, I'm talking about the DLP. They need to pick up back on the ID. I see they're putting out some other things.
No, you see what happened with the Dems is that they have a death wish. They do not know who their opponents are. The biggest opponents in the Dems are the Dems. They fight among themselves. This is a traditional now. When in opposition, they cannibalize each other, rather than realizing that our enemy is the Barbados Labour Party and the Barbados Labour Party government. So they go after each other rather than go after who really is the opposition. Depending on Kimar, because he's a young bright spark and they don't really want it to shine. He might not want to say that because he's still in the party with them, but I can say, you know, they went after him. When during the campaign, they behave like the United States people because they think, oh, that's where politics should work, and they attack each other.
You know, but while we're doing that, this country that you were all born in, I'm naturalized in it, come to love Barbados. And I just got something here in my inbox about the Pierhead project that is starting on Monday, September 18th. I don't know if Dave sees it in his WhatsApp and he could show it for me on the screen. Because what is, I know, I'm just like, I want to make mention of that before we go off, you know, but let me just, because that is bothering me because it's so hypocritical. If I remember, you remember how they behaved when the Hyatt, just one hotel was going to be built. Remember, one hotel, and now they're closing off the whole of Cavens Lane. We used to have our our damn student Cavens Lane. Now the note says they're closing off the entire Cavens Lane, right? And they're going to start, the project is starting, they're starting to build and to change the face of Bridgetown. No care for what the people think. Nothing. They're just going to go ahead and they're going to, I remember Commission said that if he has to lay down and let the bulldozers run over him. I remember him say that nobody can do they can't put any hotel there.
He wouldn't have done that if we were driving the bulldozer.
That commission issue is a very serious issue, though. I know that we may find some humor in that, right? But the way he went out there and protested against the government and filed injunction in court and had town halls and acting as though he was really supporting the residents at the town hall, we could suspect that this was probably a political job that he was on, because as soon as the government changed the legislation, the town and country planning legislation, to say that his thing was that the government did not do environmental impact assessment, which was not accurate. An entire environmental impact assessment was done on the whole area, but he's saying that none was done for the specific site, right? So he took the government to court for that. When the government came in, they changed the law to say that an environmental impact assessment may now be ordered by the minister if necessary. By adding the word may, if the minister says that they don't want none going to happen. And since then, I have not heard anything coming out to that court case that he had with the Hyatt. The Hyatt is going up, is going forward. They're saying Dugid coming out. The Prime Minister promised the Hyatt about 20 times. Still ain't going away. I remember the press conference on Bay Street with her and the developer and everybody, and things still have not gone anywhere, right? So the fact that the entire town and country planning legislation was changed, the fire the chief town plan, well, not fiery, but they transfer you over to some new department, and the town planning thing is now headed up by a board. So they remove the office of chief town planner by passing the Planning and Development Act and appointing somebody called the director of Planning and Development. And that directorship now is surrounded by a board. And who appoints the board? The Minister for Planning and Development. And who was that person at the time? The Prime Minister. And now that person is Mr. Duguay, the Senior Minister in the Prime Minister's office. Because as we say, the Prime Minister has about 5 or 6 ministries under her belt. And one of them include the Planning and Development. So, I mean, it's sick what's happening. And you're seeing all types of properties, all types of buildings, all types of things giving planning permissions. And we don't know how they're getting the planning permission to do some very obscure things in Barbados. But you can see how. So it's either Commission advise the government how to change that legislation to bypass these environmental impact assessments, or that they tricked him and changed that legislation and hang him out to sea and then give him a job to shut his mouth. I am not sure which one is it.
My goodness. But look at this press release, and this is according to what you were saying on the show. It says the construction of the Pierhead Development Project in Bridgetown starts on Monday, September 18th, with erection of construction boarding as a safety measure to protect the public. As a result, from September 18th and for the duration of the construction, Cavens Lane will be closed off to the public, as well as the Fort Willoughby entrance to the beach. So it is in effect. It's in effect. They are going ahead, and I think I mean, there's nothing David Commission could ever say out of his mouth that I could ever believe in my life again. Never. I tell you this. That's one thing. I would be an idiot. Listen, I believe this man, and he was going to march. I was going to march with him, I believe the man, and now the entire, not just a small piece, but the entire Bay Street, and not a word. No, it's almost like he doesn't live in this country again. And that is the problem with politics. That's why I say, if that is what politics is, Mr. Franklin, I do not want any part of it because I can't be a hypocrite. I can't be saying one thing today and tomorrow I'm saying something else. I can't do it.
I'll tell you something, and I'll tell you again because I said it on this show, I said it in the Senate, and I said it where anybody will listen to me. A couple days after the elections in 2018, I was coming out of my office on White Park Road, and Commissioner saw me come to the office, and he pulled into the car park because he was so excited because the BLP had won, and he, you know, I always criticize whoever is in power. I don't think that I should do that. Sit on the praise them. I show them where their faults are. They can go out there and praise themselves. So I was one of the people who was putting some pressure on the Stewart administration. So somehow he thought that I was doing that on behalf of the Barbados Labour Party. So he thought I was a kindred spirit. So he came over to me, he was talking, he was happy, he was laughing. And then I said to him, but tell me something, what about the Hyatt? And Commissioner said to me, he was never really opposed to the Hyatt. He was just trying to make sure them fellas don't get their hands on the investment. He stopped that project, stopped people from getting jobs just because he wanted to make sure that the Democrat Labour Party did not get the credit for putting investment in Barbados. But he sabotaged the economy. That I will never forgive him for. Mind you, he curses me now. He curses me on Facebook and whatever else. But I challenge him to deny everything that he said there to be true, to be untrue. Let him say that I'm telling lies. He's never done it so far. He just curses me now. He did it with a political motive. He had no intention of coming through opposing the Hyatt for all the reasons that he said. It was only for political purposes. And he told me so out of his own mouth.
Yeah, that man is, I mean, I tell you, he's such a it's so discouraging. I remember even with the Black Lives Matter, the man would even come out to one march. I said, oh, how could this possibly be? How could this possibly be? He said nothing. I said, wow, look at that man. You know, I mean, as somebody says, a political prostitute, a complete disgrace. That's what I think. He has disgraced himself, totally disgraced himself. Disappointment, right? And that's one of the reasons people ask, oh, we're gonna join a party. I'm not interested because it just seems very nasty to me. If that is how they're going to behave, I don't want any part of it. I'm sorry.
A conscience will only bother you if you had one. Okay? Remember that.
Yeah, but remember, we still gotta remember too that Commission had a political past too. You know, Commission was the Democratic Labour Party candidate in the city, and Commission had a lot of troubles in his early political life in terms of DLP politics. So there will be some level of disdain as it relates to his support of the party at the time. But he's showing where his loyalty was in terms of blocking the government from bringing investment here. The Hyatt was not the only hotel that they blocked. They also blocked the Haywards project, and we have not heard anything about that. My only qualm with the Haywards project was some of the. I have a problem with concessions. I mean, I acknowledge that there could be some concessions, but I don't think that we should give them the whole wash pan, right? So I we say that was my drawback in terms of some of what was offered. I don't think a hotel should be coming to Barbados to operate for 25 years tax free, 25 years VAT free, 25 years free import duties, and I don't agree with that type of level of giving away of a country's wealth and resources like that, right? So, but let's start the project, right? This particular project now at the Pierhead, this was only carried since the last BLP administration that lost in 2007-8. They were supposed to bring what you call the Meridian Hotel to Bridgetown, right? So there was always a development plan for the things on offer for the city of Bridgetown, right? And the government right now, the already BLP, sorry, they enjoy representation of Bridgetown. The most you had Billy Miller in Bridgetown, but before that you had the prime ministers, you had Elliot Motley in the mayor of Bridgetown, then you had Billy Miller in Bridgetown. Then after Billy Miller, you had Ball State. I
No,
know,
before Billy Miller, I had Mayor's father.
right, as the mayor.
No, that's your grandfather.
Oh,
His grandfather was Ernest Motley. Then Elliot Motley became a member of the city, and then they had some problems within the Barbados Labour Party, and they ran him out. And he went over by Barra and became Council General. He resigned. I remember that very well because that was the day he resigned from the House was the same day David Simmons entered the House for the first time as a representative of St. Philip. I can't remember the dates, but I remember that happened on that same day. So he resigned from the House and went over to the Dems. And that's how come May become a Dem. She grew up in the Dem house then. Don't let them fool you.
all right.
And then Billy Miller won the by-election after he resigned. And then she won the by-election. And quickly then it was 76, general election. And then she won the election.
Yeah. And then after her, you had a short 5 years with Patrick Todd. Then you had Ball State. I know you have Corey Lane.
No, it was Peter Miller.
Right, but
Peter
it was more right. I think I wasn't giving everybody. It was just trying to highlight that the government, particularly the BLP, represented Bridgetown for most of its electoral history, right? And if you look at the state of Bridgetown, nothing what happened. They have put out, I think, manifesto, plans, this agenda, that agenda, but for some reason they can't seem to get anything done in Bridgetown. And whenever they do developments, they always leave with the people in the city. Right? The city is one of the poorest places in Barbados. Look at the housing in the city. The government has been promising us houses since they got it. I heard that someone said we can build 10,000 houses. Then during COVID, they said they got this homes for all program. Where the houses that the government built for low-income people since the war? They did a project at White Park Road, and that was a project started by the Dems. Right? They finish it up. Not to start it, but they're going on the building higher income houses using the government's money, because they say that they took $50 million out to the housing credit fund to build 1,000 houses. I have not seen these 1,000 houses as yet, but you can sure if you go and check that money from the housing credit fund, it must be gone. Right? So, yeah. So
that's the buy corn, scratch grain for the yard field, my dear boy. You must understand these things.
Hey.
Oh man, this is it's really the level of corruption. It reeks really, and I am just appalled to know that this is really going to happen. What's going to happen to the people who live in the city? Are they going to move them out? What's going to happen? They're started. Kimar came on the show and showed us the whole development plan that they had for the Bay Street and all those areas. And that begins on Monday, September 18th. I don't hear Gabby writing no poem. Gabby don't write no poem. He send me a poem every morning. I don't hear no poem about this. I don't about the gentrification of Bridgetown. I don't hear no poem about it, Gabby. You're my friend, man. Gabby, you're my friend. But I don't hear no poem. Where's the Pan-Africanists? Huh? What about the Pan-Africanists? Where are they about the selling out of this place? And Bridgetown turning over to rich people? Where the Pan-Africanists? Where they are? I don't understand where the David Denny's. Where are they? Where is it,
Or
Gabby?
the government adopt all the Pan-Africanists. Every trip to Africa, the government had some of the Pan-Africanists. One of the Pan-Africanists is the ambassador to CARICOM. Another one of the Pan-Africanists heading up the reparations committee, and they bring in products and they ain't telling him anything about it, and he getting in the news and he cursing the government.
But look, Kimar, that was never a real job. They took him down as a minister of government for whatever reason. I don't know what it is.
Right, where they said that
But then Mia didn't want him to get vexed and become leader of the opposition, so she gave him back a job, and so that will give him money that's commensurate with what he was getting as a thing. And he's basically a bought and paid for man as well. And he thinks that people are taking him seriously. The job was never intended to do anything really, but for him to draw some money, you know.
but he wasn't fired for the same scenario at Savvy on the Bay. When he brought, I remember when he brought a tractor or so to push down the coconut trees that they said that were illegally planted on the Bay. He brought two gentlemen to apologize to the public. And when they brought the news clip, only one body was apologizing, really. I don't know if you all remember that.
Yes.
I remember.
And then in the snap of a finger, Prescott was fired. Right?
But look at this thing now. He's complaining. These Pan-Africanists, you know, I used to, you know, try to hang around them because I thought it was real. I honestly thought, you know, I'm the foolish one. I thought it was real, guys. I really thought it was real until I'm like, hold a minute. There's no real. They're not. They believe, these Pan-Africanists. They actually believe that the prime minister was set apart in like the spiritual thing. There's a part of them that believe in the spiritual stuff, and they actually believe that she was like called or set apart to do this kind of stuff. You know, I'm serious.
He said that the prime minister has a divine entitlement to become prime minister.
Who said? Which one said that? I heard that from them as well.
Right. Or now for quoted Trevor Prescott in his interview on Mia Motley by saying that Prescott said Mia Motley has a divine entitlement to these things. Like being prime minister. So
they all believe that.
But you must remember,
believes it, and all of them believe she's divinely appointed for the job. The Pan-Africanist.
That wasn't any real belief or anything as such. He had to say that because remember he had won the seat. Then Kenny Best beat him and he had a job. So he was hanging around Mayor Motley's office and Mayor was paying him ever so often. So yeah, I said something good about her. Or he didn't get paid. You forget. Remember what's going on. You remember Kenny Best had beaten him and he was out in the doldrums and so looking for work. She was working for Mia. Yeah, he had to say something sweet about she, you know. She paid him to be in her choir, you know.
Yeah, but as a man with dignity, you mean every 6 months you ain't get a curse the government? That's not the first time I heard him cursing the government in Parliament. No, he does this all the time, but still working under the government's armpit. We're collecting all these things. He's claiming that they're bypassing him and they're not involving him. Also saw him in the paper talking about if they can build houses in St. Michael East, they should at least go over to the Ivy. So my thing is, if you're an MP, you're unable to get anything done in your constituency, you have to be given a job. You could be a minister. You claim if you're able to be a minister, but then you have to be given a job, working, they don't know doing what. And then every minute you get, be a man across the floor. Right? I am personally not feeling for anybody, any of them, who's sitting down and they are cursing the prime minister 24/7 because she ain't getting what they want or she ain't involved them in shit involved them in.
Can I tell you this here? That man Prescott is all about money. She gave him after she removed him as a member of parliament. She gave him a pay. I know that as a fact. That is more than what he was getting before. That's what he said. She would have to be giving him more money. Okay, and she gave him more money to as Mr. Franklin said, just to sit there and act as though he's doing something important. Look at what happened. $18 million came in reparation, and that old boy didn't know a thing about it, thinking he has an important job. Somebody care about you? Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about you.
Well, what they're doing now is that they're after the MP in England named Drax, who owns Drax Plantation. They're trying now to run on Drax for city property. But my thing is they're probably trying to run down Drax to get city Plantation to build houses so that they can feather the pockets. Because Drax Plantation have been there all of these years. All of a sudden, Drax Plantation looking very pretty for the Pan Africanists. And you got all of the Pan Africanists putting out statements speaking, going after Drax, talking about reparations. Why Drax?
Well, you know, the church that give the 18 million probably know that there's a problem here with accountability. That's how I know Caswell will put it a different way, but they sidestep them and decide that they're not bringing the money through them. You know what? Why is he? If the money's going to the people, why are you so worried? You feel like almost like he was going to catch a heart attack that he didn't get the 18 million, get his hand on the $18 million.
None is stopping by you. So
No.
that's the problem, you know. Marcia, I want to speak about something before we finish.
Yes.
Remember last time I spoke how the prison officers were being treated.
Yes.
And there are situations in the prison I cannot speak to because of national security. But there's some, and I can remember I told you that I had actually drafted those terms of reference for the prison inquiry because I had spoken to the Prime Minister about the things that were going on. And a lot of these things are not any national security issues, but they take the whole report and shut it down and put a national security stamp on top of it because they don't want people to know what's going on. And I'm going to talk about at least one tonight. Mm-hmm. It deals with the ministers getting involved in recruitment of public officers. That is not their job. They look for jobs for their people, and they don't. And when you send them to the places to get jobs, they're not scrutinized. I remember we had court marshals who had convictions when they find out later on after politicians had them employed in the public service. That is not the politician's job. That is the job for an independent service commission. But the service commissions are not allowed to do the jobs that the Constitution said that they should do. Mm-hmm. But the one I want to talk about tonight is it happened in the prison. And you remember a couple of days ago, a prisoner escaped from the hospital.
I'm sorry. This is hilarious. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen. You're going to jump off your chair. Here, this one.
The prisoner escaped from the hospital. He jumped through the window, jumped on a container, but tried to get his escape, but the poor fool broke his foot. So he couldn't run. But he's in prison for having killed somebody for murder. And his girlfriend knows a politician and went to the politician and tried to get a job in the prison. And she was successful. She got a job in the prison to be close to her boyfriend.
Okay, so this is the same boyfriend who tried to escape, jumped through the window, the hospital. This is I write films, right? So this is like a comedy. This one is a comedy. He jumped
so
and he
she went and get a politician to get her into the prison as a prison officer.
So she could be close to her boyfriend.
So she could be close to her boyfriend. And God knows how close. You know, but I made a joke. I said, well, you know, he's so ungrateful. After she went through all of that, he want to escape. You know?
You probably don't love her anymore.
Yeah.
So she tried to get the job. So let's tell you
No, she got it.
straight. So
She
she
got it.
got the job. She went to the politician. This is a corruption, right?
Yes.
She went to the politician. She got the job so she could be close to her killer boyfriend, the boy that is alleged that he killed somebody. And so she wanted to be close so she could get the job, right? In the police, as a prison officer. And then the boy, then he got sick. I went to the hospital and tried to escape. He probably running away from her.
But no, that's so disloyal. After she went through all of that, you know, that money fella. You know,
Now you know that right now to get a job, um, you ask about jobs. I've had people come to me to say that they want a reference. I was like, okay, no problem. They said, anytime they go inquire about jobs, the people tell them that they're gonna get a letter from their MP
the
or
MP.
their minister. So you can't get a job in the public service unless you got a letter from your parliamentary representative. And I don't think that that's right. Because I know a lot of people who ain't going to a parliamentary representative to get anywhere. They would apply, give a good public service and fill in the documents and apply there, but they ain't walking into the parliamentarian office to ask for a job or to get a minister to write you a letter for a job. So
But too many are willing to do that, and the politicians buying your vote, basically, you know. So when you help me get that job, that's my vote in next election. So they are intruding into areas that don't concern them, like recruitment. I tell you, we had convicts who became court marshals because the politicians sending the name and nobody scrutinized them to see everything. Now we have this, but she for one of the questions that you should ask a person or you should find out is if there were have any involvement with anybody in the prison or anything like that. No, she got a job in the prison in the prison, so be close to her lover.
you,
And
you know, bring up, Joe, when you say boy votes, right? You know that you remember the government has something called the Adopt a Family, $600 a month, a program that they were giving to people who didn't have any income during COVID, right? This program was headed up by the director of finance, right? And they used this $600 program to buy so much votes in Barbados that they purposely put people on this $600 program just before election. Pack it up heavy, 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 heavy. Put so many people on this program who they knew were unemployed and were not getting any money, and were giving households this $600 a month to be able to get votes. I mean, I could tell you it because it happened very rapid across Bridgetown, right? And the person who was heading up the program is the MP for Bridgetown, and he packed up that list with so many people from Bridgetown on that $600 program. And then after the election, he turned around and take them off one by one. I get all the complaints. People came to me crying that they got took off the $600 program and wanted to know what was wrong. I said nothing wrong. The election done no, so it didn't need to give you free money anymore when the month come, right? So they use the government programs like this to use welfare assistance to be able to buy the way into people's hearts to get votes.
Yeah. And you see, and this is a part of the corruption because this woman who has somebody so close to her in the prison system could get a job. This is a level of corruption, and that's one of the reasons, that we are marching tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Don't forget, we're on the program here, but guys, it's leading somewhere. We need the numbers. We need you to come out, as Caswell just highlighted to you there. And that's just a tip of the iceberg as it relates to corruption in the prison. He's telling you people that are ex-convicts are becoming prison officers. Not that you can't be reformed, but that should not be one of the jobs I don't think that you should get a job like that. That is kind of a little odd. to give you a job
No,
like that.
court marshals. They want to be convict were court marshals.
Court martial.
Yeah, they became court marshals.
And that's done through the politicians, because as
As a matter of fact, the last 7 court marshals that were employed, all of them came from St. Joseph. I am not attributing it to anybody. I'm just saying that the people in St. Joseph are more suited to be court marshals.
So most of the people in St. Joseph, they've become court marshals. I wonder why.
The last 7 that were appointed as court marshals all came from St. Joseph. I could only assume that St. Joseph has this kind of natural skill to become court marshals. I can't put it any higher than that, because I'm not saying because the Attorney General is the representative of St. Joseph that he did anything. All I can tell you is that the people in St. Joseph are more adept at being court marshals than anybody else.
But we don't know. The Attorney General probably have a special training program for people in St. Joseph that allows so many of them to be court marshals. We don't know.
But he should not do that, because he's not supposed to be involved in recruiting anybody. That's not his job. His job is to certify laws that go into the cabinet, certify them that they are fit to be sent to the House. And so far, he has failed miserably, because too many of them have been rejected. Too many of them are poor, and right now we see lawyers tonight talking about how vague they are. Now he's supposed to be certifying them, not out there recruiting people for anything. So that's why I'm saying that I'm not saying that he's done it. I'm just saying that it so happens that the people from his constituency are more adept at being court marshals than anybody else in Barbados. You can draw whatever conclusions you want to draw. Mine is that the people in St. Joseph are better suited to be court marshals than anybody else.
Possibly. There's something there in the water and the food. Probably it's the greenery and a lot of breadfruit. You have a lot of breadfruit and a lot of green bananas down there. Why they would be, But listen, what are we saying in light of all of this, all of what is happening? Let's give a last minute talk to the people to come out tomorrow. Let me start with Kemar. Kemar, talk to the people about coming out to the march tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow is a very special day. Tomorrow is the march for justice. Tomorrow is the march for freedom. Tomorrow is the march for survival and longevity in Barbados. We continue to be oppressed. We continue to be deceived. We continue to be onlookers to our own destiny, while sitting down and watching people who are securing their future take away ours and dim the lights for generations to come. I want to encourage all Barbadians to come up to the march, show your disgust. Any regrets you have, come and vent your frustrations tomorrow. Come and get your placards. Marcia needs the support. Caswell needs the support. I need your support. We are the official opposition. We need to do this together. We can't do it one man here, one man there. Since we are not getting the representation that we need from others, the Lord has inspired us, and He rose up a couple of soldiers, led ably by a general in Caswell, and bolstered up by superstars and top-ranking soldiers like Marcia. So I just want to give my full support to the march. I myself will be there up front supporting as well, and I want to see you. Bring 5 people, bring 10 people, spread the message all over Barbados. This is the march for you. We are giving representation back to the people, and we need to get this march happening tomorrow, but at early 10 o'clock, Masikar Park. We look forward to seeing you. You have speeches on the road, and I'm sure that on the road you have some thought-related speeches in what we now call a Republic of Barbados a republic that still has no constitution. So thank you very much, and welcome
Yes.
to the Republic of Barbados.
Yes, yes, General. Let's hear from General. Man, anywhere you're in the house, man. Give Caswell give him a hand. Give him a hand wherever you are, in your home. Give him a hand. I went to the beach the other day, and all these these gentlemen, they came up to me. They said, "You're Marcia Weeks, right?" Listen, Caswell Franklin, Caswell Franklin, Caswell Franklin. They were chatting off my ears in the water. But General, give us the final word.
All I can say to the people of Barbados that if your eyes are not open, no, they will never be open. This party, the Barbados Labour Party, came into office promising to do good for the people of this country, and they have done everything other than good. They are slowly destroying your lives. And if you sit down and continue to take it, they will destroy everything else that they have not so far destroyed. You must be able to stand up and speak for yourself. Don't even necessarily speak. We have people who speak for you, but we want them to see that we are speaking for you. So come out there in your numbers and support us. We will articulate your cause, but we want the politicians to see that you are behind us. Because remember, they said, oh, they're just a handful. No, there are more than a handful of people that support us, but we don't want you to support us from home. We want you to support us on the street to send the message to the politicians that they got to stop this foolishness, that all Barbadians are created equal, not the BLP yard folks more than anybody else. And everybody should get opportunities in this country. And when they're taxing people, they should do it fairly and evenly and do not put the burden on the poorest of the poor. The poorest people in Barbados pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes. That is not fair. I remember our Barra and Tom Adams moved to protect the poor. Now Tom Adams' party is going the other way. It's moving to protect the rich. I call it reverse Robin Hood. They are robbing the poor to make the rich wealthier. You have to stand up for yourselves. We can we can speak on this show every night, but we don't want you to speak with your feet. March with us tomorrow, 16th September at 10 o'clock. Come down to Massey Car Park if you can march. If you can't make it from all the way to the car park, meet me at Bridgetown. But join the march. Let the people see that the government does not own Barbados and that Barbadians have a say in what happens in Barbados. Thank you all so much, and I hope I see you all tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Mr. Franklin. Thank you, Kimar. And thanks to Mrs. Maynard Holligan, who was on earlier. And tomorrow, we're going to ask everybody to come down. We have our permit. Bring water. We will have water for you as well. We normally make sure that you have water, but you still walk with water. Make sure that light clothing, nothing too dark, and that you're hydrated on the way. All right, so want to come early. Come early so you can get your placard, that the one you choose. I hope I get a special one. I got a special one I want. But come and get your placard, or you can make your placard. We're going to bring extra placard about the child protection. We have a lot of those. We're going to bring some there so that you can choose the one that you want to, And we're going to work also for those teachers. The most recent thing that happened is those 20 teachers that whose contracts were not renewed, and we always think about the fact that they have children and they have bills and they would have been planning. So, some of them might have mortgages. I don't know, their rent to pay. It's real for people. And so when you come out there, we're not just thinking, let's think about those people as well. And I hope the teachers will come out and march with us tomorrow. Of course, we see you again on, as somebody said, outstanding class. Yes, the class. It has been good. You should see me today going over my notes, but they've been good. They've been good. Yes. So guys, see you tomorrow. Bright and early. The police says we have to leave on time. General, they said we have to leave on time, and they said make sure that we continue to be of good behavior. And they told me that, you know, they've been giving us the permits, and if we mess up one time, that's it. That's what they said. You know, but I know we are in our good behavior, and we will continue to get those permits. Okay. All right. So see everybody tomorrow at 10 o'clock. God bless.
All right,
Bye-bye.
good night.
All right, bye bye.